Yes, Mr. Baloyi. You want to say something, Mr. Yeah?
Advocate Mshololo is still not available at most for the rest of the week.
So she still insists the crisis is still going on.
Yes.
I remember one time I made a remark about our black attorneys and advocates.
Yes.
You remember?
I remember.
I'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Because this thing was followed up by 10 retired judges. You remember?
Yes.
That article in the Sunday Times.
Yes.
To say, what are the problems in our courts? Because now here you have a lady who's supposed to be acting for somebody. She says she experiences a crisis at home. Don't you think she must explain? My house burned down, at least something like that.
I will tell her.
Yeah. No, you don't have to tell her. I'm just saying, a reasonable person who knows he's got or she's got obligations must explain why she can't meet the obligations. Okay, fine. But you did tell the client?
Yes, I did.
Just check with the client. Because the next time the client will say, mina kade ngazi, azange bangazisi.
Yes, my lord.
Okay, fine, thank you. Yes, Mr. Baloyi.
As a court, please, my lord, the proceedings were adjourned yesterday for the continuation of cross-examination. Appearances for the state are still the same.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Nisi.
Confirm my appearance on behalf of accused number 3 and 1.
Okay.
My lord, on behalf of accused number 2, I'm still appearing.
Right.
This is the court, my lord. I still appear on behalf of accused number 4, standing in for Advocate Mshololo on behalf of accused number 5.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yes, Mr. Nisi.
Is it please the court?
You're still under oath, Brigadier?
Yes, thank you, my lord.
Is it please the court, my lord? Thank you, Brigadier, and good morning.
Yes, good morning, Advocate Minister.
Thank you, Brigadier. I received a copy of the statement from Absalom Zungu, that's now Absalom the Senior. Remember yesterday you were still trying to find out the name of the person who Mr. Zungu, the Senior, got this information from. You were able to identify that the person who he got this information from, the information that implicated accused number 1 and 2 in the commission of this offense was a certain Mpekiseni. Is that correct?
That is correct, my lord.
Bathi-ke manje izolo siqedelela kudaba lolu kade udingana nestatement leso sakababa kaZungu-ke udaba lolwazi kade athi unalo-ke owalizwa-ke ngesikhathi kade khona kungaboni ngasonye phakathi komndeni kamsola wokuqala futhi-ke nomsola wesibili-ke lapho-ke futhi washo ukuthi baba kaZungu kunegama lomuntu othizeni awalikhuluma ukuthi leyo nkulumo yaqhamuka-ke nomhlambi wayizwa-ke yena-ke bathi igama elalo muntu uMbekiseni athi yebo kunjalo.
Now, if my memory serves me well, this statement had already been read on record and it was already admitted in exhibit. Not so. I don't think you were here. I'm sure if you're aware of this, but that is what is happening. The statement now forms part of the evidence. It was read on record.
Athi-ke manje ummeli istatement lesi icabanga ukuthi basifunda futhi inkosi enkantolo yasamukela la njengofakazi bala enkantolo kepha wona icabanga ukuthi kade khona-ke ngesikhathi istatement esikade besifunda la besifunda ngaphambi kwenkantolo.
Yes, I'm aware, my lord, that it was brought into. I do remember.
Under what circumstances?
Athi yebo ngiyakhumbula ukuthi kade besilethile bathi kade basithenga phansi kwesimo esiphi noma isimo esinjani.
My Lord, my recollection, as I said, it was in relations to when I was testifying on the trial within trial the first time this statement was brought up. It was in relation to what led us to accuse number 1 and 2, and it was insofar as I can recall, and I mentioned the name of Zungu Senior as the person who gave this affidavit, and that made us to focus on accused 1 and 2, my Lord.
Athena ke uyacabanga nanoma ke ecabanga mara nomkhumbulo wakhe xa ukuthi statement lesibasifunda ngesikhathi kade kunengxoxo ngaphakathi kwengxoxo noma ngapha umzila ngaphakathi komzila kulicala leli kade lixoxwa ngaphambi kwenkantolo ke la kade kwaqhamuka khona kudaba malana nomsolo oqala futhi nomsolo wesibili.
Thank you. And to be more
Sorry,
precise-
Mr.
Sorry, madam.
It's important because
Yes.
it's hearsay evidence. Is that not so?
Yes.
Right. So there's got to have been an application in terms of the Evidence Act 88,
Yes, my lord.
right?
Yes.
A formal application that it must be included in the record
Yes.
on the basis that the interest of justice demanded, but because it wasn't deposed to by a person who is presently in court, it was deposed to by Absalom Zungu. Somebody is going to tell the court whether Absalom Zungu is going to give evidence. Is that not so? What does the law say, Mr.?
Well, it is indeed so. It may be admitted in the interest of justice, or if the parties agree to that.
That's it. That's what I'm getting at.
Yes, but we didn't.
How was it?
We didn't introduce the
You
affidavit.
just,
Whoever, I think it was introduced during
I
cross-examination
know it was
by
during
one of the
Mr.
counsel.
Ngomezulu, the late Mr. Ngomezulu.
Yes.
And I was insisting, but you know how it was. I was insisting that this is hearsay. A proper foundation must be laid for the admission
Yes.
of this statement. Whether the parties themselves agree, that's different.
Yes.
If the state and Mr. Nisi agree that it must be admitted, then it will be formally admitted.
Yes.
But if he doesn't agree, then it remains hearsay. Then there's an onus on the state, either to call Mr. Absalom Zungu or to argue that in his absence,
Yes.
in the interest of justice, that statement should be admitted or admissible. Is that not the law?
Yes, indeed, my lord. But
Mr. Mnisi, do you think I'm quoting the law correctly? Because
yes,
you know, statements here were flying. You remember even with Mr. Ngomezulu, the statement of Kelly Kumalo, the
Yes.
statement of Brigadier. And I said, this is hearsay. No, these are my instructions.
yes.
So what is the status of that statement? According to you, sir, now that you are representing accused number 1.
I'm not so sure, my lord. Well, because now it forms part of the record.
Yeah, but is it
Yes.
admissible or not? It can form part of the record. When I write the judgment, is it
Yes.
admissible?
Because, my lord, of the fact that the information which is contained in here, and it's actually not there. If I would just take this matter further and then come and address the court on this aspect, my lord, then I would be in a position then to give an answer to what the court is asking me. Because there's just one more further aspect that I would want to take in respect of this statement.
Yeah, okay, fine. You can pursue it as long as you don't forget.
Thank you, my lord.
Right.
Thank you. As it please the court, my lord. Thank you. Now, Brigadier, this statement forming part of the record, the information being said, that actually came from Mpegiseni, as per your testimony. I had an opportunity to again had a look at the statement, and what struck my mind, or what I was able to identify in the statement on paragraph 3, is that this Mpegiseni himself is not the originator of the information that is contained in here. He himself says, I got this information from one Ntanzi from another Ntanzi. In other words, Mbekiseni himself got this information from a person that he refers to as some other Ntanzi. Do you understand?
I understand, my lord, and I'm not disputing that.
Thank you.
But the fact that I was saying, in this statement, it is clearly explicit by Absalom Zungu that accused 1 and 2 were involved in the killing of Senzo Meyiwa.
Bathi-ke ufakazi malana nodaba lwale statement lesi sakababa uAbsalom Zungu bokubaba kaConstable Zungu ke kukhona la malana no paragraph 3 lapho khona ukuthi umbhekisini lo bathi ubaba kaZungu wathola ke ulwazi kuyena ke akuyena umuntu onelungelo mhlawumbe noma oselungelweni lokuthi kade kuye kade akhuluma lo lwazi loluke kepha ulwazi lolu walithola komunye umuntu bambiza ukuthi uNtanzi bese ufakazi athi yebo ngiyakuvuma lokho kunjalo wakhuluma lokho kepha ke wathi umsola wokuqala futhi nomsola wesibili ke banesandla ekushoneni kukaSenzo Meyiwa.
That is what is contained in the statement, Brigadier. And for you to say that is what Mbekiseni is saying, that accused number 1 and 2 were involved in the commission of this offense is a misnomer, because he says in the statement, I got that information from this other Ntanzi. In other words, the originator or the source of this information, it's not him Mbekiseni, but it is this other Ntanzi.
Bathi yebo lanoma kunjalo ke kepha ukhumbule khona njalo ukuthi umbhekiseni lo yena ke kuNtanzi ke akuyena umuntu olethe ulwazi malana nodaba lwestatement lesi kepha ke omunye uNtanzi olethe ulwazi elethela kumbheki noma itshela umbhekiseni ulwazi lolokho bese kumbhekiseni watshela ke ubaba kaZungu ke lapho kuZungu senior bambiza ngokuthi uZungu senior ukuthi umsola wokuqala futhi umsola wesibili banesandla kulodlana.
No, but my lord, that's not what I said. The person who made a statement to me is Absalom Zungu. The name of Mbekiseni came as to when the question was asked to me whether Mr. Absalom Zungu was the source of this information. And I said, I do recall that there was another person, insofar as I could recall. And that's how we got to Mbekiseni. So there's no assertion from me that I said Mr. Mbekiseni is the source. I said, I remember that there was another person, and we spoke to that person, and that person was not willing to come forward in fearful of his life, my lord.
Athi yebo noma kunjalo kepha ngisakhumula ukuthi lo mbuzo waqhamuka ngesikhathi kade abuza kubaba kaConstable Zungu ukuthi ngabe uye yini umnini olwazi loluke bese wathi yena kubaba kaConstable Zungu cha ke nake umnini uthizeni olwazi lolu kepha ulwazi olwaluzwa ke komunye umuntu kulaba qhamuka khona ke igama lomlisa uthizeni bambiza ngokuthi umbhekiseni Ntanzi.
Now, would you agree with me then that paragraph 3 Mbekiseni, in fact, Absalom Zungu the senior says, Mbekiseni told him that he got this information from another Ntanzi.
Ngabe yakuvuma yini ukuthi ubaba kaConstable Zungu Absalom Zungu uyena ke wakutshela ukuthi ulwazi lolu wena ke walithola kumbhekiseni Ntanzi kepha ke umbhekiseni Ntanzi naye kukhona la walwazwa khona ke malana nalolu daba.
Yes, I'm not denying it, my lord.
Thank you.
Athi yebo angikuphiki ke lokho.
Thank you, my lord. Back to what the court asked me and whether or not this statement should stand. Now, on the trajectory of the information that is narrated in the statement here, it is undoubtedly clear that it is a trail of hearsay. It is a trail of hearsay. So, and hearsay is not admissible, my lord. So, as it is, this statement, it carries no value unless this other Ntanzi can come and testify and say, I am the originator of this information and I'm aware under what circumstances these assertions were made. Then the matter must just die there, my lord. In other words, the statement carries no value with regard to the assertions that are contained in here that accused number 1 and number 2 were involved in the commission of this offense. So it's a trail of hearsay. That would be my submission.
Mr. Baloyi, What's your view?
As a court, please, my lord, the court will recall that at the inception of the evidence of Brigadier Gininda, we were at pains to avoid this hearsay evidence. In fact, if I recall, the evidence of Brigadier Gininda was to the effect that he received a report from Mr. Absalom Zungu, because as court officials, we are aware that we may not lead hearsay evidence, but my late colleague then went and introduced the hearsay evidence, and we cannot stop him. If a party wishes to introduce hearsay evidence, then they must, lie on the bet that they make. And Mr. Mgumizule has introduced hearsay evidence at his own accord, well aware what the legal position is. He must, the defense must therefore, my lord, sleep on the bet that they've made. It cannot be retracted, it's on record. We submit, my lord, that it has to remain on record. The statement is already admitted, despite the fact that it's, as Advocate Nisi pointed out, it's triple hearsay evidence. I mean, that's why we didn't call Mr. Zungu Senior to testify, as his evidence, according to Exhibit Triple U, amounts to triple hearsay evidence.
Okay, you have to address me at the end of the case, Mr. Baloi and Mr. Nisi, okay?
As it is the court, my lord.
Yeah.
I just pray that I don't forget that.
Hello?
I'm saying I will just pray that I don't forget what the
No,
court
me, I
is-
won't forget.
Yes, my lord. Thank you, my lord.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, would not have requested that this statement be retracted, but the information contained therein be disregarded, my lord. It is evidence, of course. It cannot be retracted, but request that the information contained therein, on the basis of the fact that it is inadmissible, it should then be disregarded, my lord. As it please the court, my lord. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mana nodaba lolu statement ke kade yacela ke ummeli wakho ke mnumzana ukuthi inkosi enkantolo ke ingasamukeli statement lesi ngoba ke inkulumo lenkulumo ke statement lesi akuyona ke inkulumo yomuntu lo ibhalile ngaphathi kwe statement ke kepha ke inkulumo yomuntu ayizwe komunye ke umuntu lapho khona kathi ungizwa nje kuphela wenkulumo ke loyo ke kepha ecela ukuthi lenkulumo lena inkosi enkantolo engayamukeli njengofakazi bala inkantolo ngoba ke ayinasihlahla noma ayinamsindo malana necala lelenu ke nibhekane nalo ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo ke bese ehlangothi lezombuso ke laphendula ke lapho ke malana nenkulumo lethu ummeli unayilethile lathi ummeli owaletha ke lenkulumo lena ke futhi nofakazi lobuke ummeli osele washona ongasekho la ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo ke umnumzana omngomezulu futhi kwamele ukuthi ehlangothi labamelweni ke bese ulale phezulu lombhedo abazibekele wona ke lapho ke futhi washo khona ukuthi inkulumo statement lesi sele singaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo futhi sele basamukela lapho njengofakazi baka Triple U.
Thank you, my lord. Thank you, Brigadier. But in any event, my lord, we will come and deal with this point as in our main arguments.
Yeah, quite.
Thank you, my lord. Now, your investigation is at this point, at the point where you already have the statement from Mr. Zungu, the senior, which is fraught with hearsay. And then from there, is there anything or any investigation that happened after the 17th of November 2019, which was to try and find out the authenticity of the information that was contained in this hearsay evidence with regard to the implicit of accused number 1 and number 2 in the commission of the offense? In other words, from the 17th of November 2019, what then happened?
Manje ke udaba afisa ukuthumela ke alwazi ukuthi ngabe mhlawumbe khona ke ukuphenya kwecala mhlawumbe amanye amanyathelo owahamba ngenhloso yokuthi uphenya ke icala ngemuva kwelanga la nge-17 zakaNovember ngomnyaka ka-2019 ngemuva kokuthi uthola ke istatement lesike sakaMnumzana uAbsalom Zungu ke ubaba kaConstable Zungu ke la kade akutshela khona ke malana nongizwa wenkulumo yakhe kade awuzwile.
Yes, my lord, a lot happened. Investigation proceeded from this statement, and as I indicated yesterday and today, that part of the things that was done was to get Bekiseni to corroborate at least that part from Mr. Absalom, which was futile in terms of fearful of his life.
Athi yebo okuningi kwenzeka lapho ke ngemuva kuthathwa athola istatement lesi sakababa kaConstable Zungu Absalom Zungu ke lapho ke wazama enza ke inhlelo mhlawumbe inzame zokuthi athole ke lo muntu abambiza ngokuthi umbhekiseni Zungu Ntanzi lapho ke ekuthizeni ezazokhuluma ke ngofakazi bakhe ke obuzohambisana nobufakazi bakababa kaConstable Zungu ke lapho ke kepha wanqaba ukuze yena ke futhi athi uyasaba usabela impilo yakhe.
Cold case analysis, my lord, as I've indicated on them was then done to to get the details, specifics now, and that led to various cases that are referred to in relation to number one, accused number one, which were then assigned. So these were not cases relating to this matter. It was parallel cases that we identified, that were called, and we needed to have them on site. So we embark on the cold case analysis to say, let us identify them on these cases because they were there, pursue them on those cases while then one is embarking on evidence that can be collected in this matter.
Yes. Athi lapho khona ke manje amacala kade akhona ke malana nomsola wokuqala ke angahambisani icala leli esingalo la enkantolo ke namuhla ke kepha kade aqhubeke komnye amacala ke lapho ke ngesikhathi kade kusenza kuphenyo lwabo noma usesha kwabo kwecala kulabo athi khona ke abagxinize kule cala leli ke bese bathola ubufakazi obuhambisanayo noma ubufakazi obukhethekile laba khona ukuthi bamthole khona ke umsola wokuqala.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, with the further profiling of accused number one, let's now concentrate on accused number one. Because of the information that is contained in this statement by Mr. Zungu, that culminated to the unearthing of the case against him, which was the case of the possession of drugs, not so. If I'm trying to follow what you're saying well.
Mana icala leli namacala amanye la ukukhuluma ngawo malana nomsolo oqala ngabe ukhuluma ngecala leli kade khona ke athwesa icala malana nokudayisa ke idakamizwa.
Yes, that you're following me correctly. Yes, it did results to the unearthing of the possession of drugs docket that was already opened in Tembisa, but that case then led to possession of ammunition, but subsequent or maybe prior to that, it also the profiling unearthed other two cases of attempted murder in forced arrest.
Athi yebo khona ke kunjalo kepha khumule ngesikhathi kade senza ke lo cwaningo lo kusathola khona ke amanye amacala wakhe ke la kade akuphethe khona ke amabullet futhi namanye amacala kade azama khona ke ukugropa khona kade azama khona ukubulala forced arrest lecala leli kade akhuluma ngalo qala le idakamiswa icala sethembisa ke bese amacala amabili okuzama ukubulala kade amacala se forced arrest.
Yes, that's what was discovered in the cold case analysis insofar as accused number one is concerned.
Athi lokho ke sakuthola mana nomsola oqala ngesikhathi kade senza ucwaningo lwethu lwamacala akhe.
Thank you. And eventually that led to a warrant of arrest being applied for, being authorized against him in respect of the drug case, and ultimately to his arrest on the 30th of May 2020, not so.
Lapho ke khona nenza khona ke isicelo sokuthi na kuyaboshwe ke umsolo wakhe bese nabhala ke incwadi lapho ke bese bayigunyazisa mhlawumbe bayiletha ngokuthi banikeza imvume ke lapho ke ngenyanga ngelanga la nge-30 zaka May unichiye
2020
ngomnyaka 2020 lawo boshwa khona ke boshela amacala okudayisa ke idakamizwa.
Correct, my lord, insofar as the possession or the drug dealing charge, the Tembisa 219 case, that warrant was obtained. But prior to that, there was already a warrant of arrest sitting in one of the dockets, in other words, available, which was not executed in one of the attempted murder cases of phosphorus. We then also applied for the warrant of arrest on the second attempted murder, which was issued. So there were 3 warrants at the end of the day. So 2 on attempted murder charges and 1 on this drug dealing case.
Athi yebo khona ke kunjalo wagcina ke boshwa ke ngelanga lange-30 zakaMeyi ngomnyaka 2020 ngemuva kokuthi bona kade wathule ke imvume yokuthi bakuthole ke bakubophe ke lapho ke mana licala leli lasethembisa ke le case 219 futhi kade khona ke warrant of arrest kade ikhishiwe lapho ke mayelana icala lakho lokuzama ukubulala ke lapho ke phosphorus futhi bese kwaba khona ke enye yesithathu ke lapho ke incwadi ade benayo ukuthi zini bakubophe ke ngayo ke mayelana nelicala lasephosphorus lokuzama ukubulala.
Thank you, Brigadier. But the crux of the matter is, on the strength of the warrant of arrest that was authorized under the drug case, the drug case, the Tembisa case, that is when then accused number 1 got arrested. Upon his arrest, then there were this allegation that the state came up with that he got interviewed firstly by Sergeant Mohula, who indicated that accused number 1 seemed to have knowledge about what happened with the death of Senzo Meyiwa, and that exposed everything which led us to this extent and so.
But akusinjalo ukuthi ngemuva kokuthi naye aboshweke ngelanga lange-30 zakaMeyi ngomnyaka 2020 boshwe icala sethembisa lokudayisa ke idakamiswa ke lapho ke kula khona kwaqhamuka khona kumnumzana Sergeant Mukula bese wathi kumphina ke ngemibuzo ke bese ngemuva kwalokho bese wamthwesa ke icala leli aqhamuka ngalo ke la ngaphambi kwenkantolo lesikwana ke manje.
That is correct, my lord. So the Tembisa warrant of arrest was the first one to be initiated, but then the phosphorus one followed while he was facing charges in Tembisa. It was also, those warrants were also dealt with, my lord, and he made appearances. But yes, the sparking point, or the starting point, if one can say that, was the Tembisa warrant of arrest.
Athi yebo kunjalo ke icala uqala la kade aboshwe umelana nalo ke kungemuva kokuthi bakhiphe incwadi ukuthi nakaboshwe kamaphoyisa lapho ke warrant of arrest ngesingisi ke lapho ke mayelana icala lasethembisa lokudayisa ke idakamiswa ke bese ngemuva kwalokho ke bese wakhipha incwadi yokuqala ukuthi nakaboshwe mayelana icala ukuzama ukubulala ke lapho ke phosphorus.
Thank you, Brigadier. Are you aware of the arrest of accused person, of accused number 1 by a group of police in 20? Let me just get the date very specific, Malot. May I just request a minute from that case? Thank you for the indulgence, my lord. Now, Brigadier, let's go back a bit here. Are you aware of any incident of the arrest of the accused, as now accused number 1, around March in 2019?
Bathi ngabe unalo yini ulwazi ngesikhathi kade uboshwa ke umnumzana oqala nomsolo oqala ngenyanga kaMarch ngomnyaka 2019
in relation to this case?
Mayelana icala leli.
So I'm aware of the arrest, my lord, but yes, it is incorrect to say it was in this case. He was arrested for Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019, and that is the docket of drug dealing. That's what he was arrested for.
Athi yebo nginalo ke ulwazi lokho kepha akusilona ke kade ngaboshwa uthi kade ngaboshwa lapho mayelana icala leli kepha kade aboshwa mayelana icala sethembisa lapho ko case 217 of 2019.
And that is the case, my lord, that we picked up when we were doing the cold case analysis, that he was arrested, but they could not link him, and then the case went cold. So we went to draw that docket at the archives. He was not arrested by that team, by this team, because by the time we drew it, that matter was already dealt with. We only got a statement that directs us to accused number 1 in November 2019. Prior to that, we had no knowledge or sight on him. Once we had then the statement of Absalom Zungu making us to focus on him, cold case analysis was done. This Tembisa case was then picked up, and then we went to draw it from the archives investigated it, and then subsequently the warrant was done. So I know insofar as what the docket is telling me, and the charges that he was facing there was drug dealing and not this matter.
athi lapho ke kade engaboshiwe mayelana necala le kepha kade aboshiwe mayelana necala lakhe lasithembisa ke lapho ulodayisa ke idakamizwa ke lapho ke bese bathi kade khona ke ama-cool case analysis la kade yakhona ke futhi lapho ke bese ngemuva ukuthi bathole ke ulwazi lolu ngelanga lange-19 ngenyanga kaNovemba ngomnyaka ka-2019 uqhamuka ngelanga lange-17 zakaNovemba ngomnyaka ka-2019 ulwazi lolu kade qhamuka kubaba ka-Constable Zungu ke kulabo bona baqala beza khona ke ukuphenya kwecala labo mayelana nomsola wokuqala ke lapho ke ngemuva ukuthi kade abatshelile mayelana nolwazi lolu kade analo ke mayelana nomsola wokuqala ke lapho ke athi futhi ujobelele wathi ufakazi kulaba basuka khona ke bayahamba baya e-archives lapho ke bakhipha ke docket lelo kade anecala mayelana nalo lapha ke thembisa ke bese ngemuva kwalokho kulawa boshwa khona.
Sorry, case number 217 of which month?
Of 3/2019,
Of
my
3/2019.
lord.
Okay.
Correct, my lord. Tembisa.
Yeah.
Just a second, my lord, just a minute of indulgence. May I request just a minute, my lord, just
Yeah,
to
no,
confirm
no.
this aspect, yes.
Take your time.
Thank you for the indulgence, my lord. Thank you. Brigadier. You know, the reason why I'm asking whether you have knowledge about this Chlorkop arrest, not really Chlorkop arrest, but of the arrest in March 2019 of accused number 1, because he is telling me that around 20, you might not remember the date so well, but it was in 2019. He was accosted by police people. He was in Tembisa. And he was accosted by a group of police. Some of them were in uniform and some of them were in private clothes. He specifically remembers amongst those who were there a certain Mr. Mudau, I don't know their ranks, a certain Mr. Mudau, a certain Mr. Baloyi, and as I've said, and one other policeman who was also in uniform.
athi ke isizathu sokuthi akubuzeke mayelana nalo mbuzo lokhu ukuthi ke umsolo athi kade kumnyaka ka-2019 kepha ngenyanga kaMarch kepha ilanga akasalikhumuli kade kuyilanga liphike lapho ke la kade khona kwaboshwa amaphoyisa amaningi amaphoyisa akhona kamanye kade egqoke ingubo zabo zesiphoyisa futhi amanye inye egqoke ingubo zabo zasekhaya futhi kula maphoyisa la uyakhumbula ukuthi khona ke iphoyisa ababethi uMudawu noBaloyi futhi namanye nje amaphoyisa kepha amanye akawakhumbuli kahle ukuthi kade kwamaphoyisa abobani.
Yes, I'm listening, my lord.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Brigadier.
athi yebo ngilalele.
Yeah. Now he's telling me that when they accosted him, they were driving in a kumbi, like I think it's a Nissan kumbi, it's in Pendulo kind of a thing, but I think it's a kumbi. This guy who accosted him was driving in a kumbi.
athi lamaphoyisa la amaningi ambopha ke lapho kade beshela ke ikhumbi noma itekisi lezi siphoyisa athi cha bathi nginisane noma impendulo.
I'm listening, my lord. I'm
Thank you.
following.
athi yebo ngilalele.
And upon his arrest, he was then taken to Clorkop.
athi ngimuva ukuthi nabambophe ke bamthatha bamikisa ke eClorkop.
I think that is where the offices of these people who arrested him were, I would assume, because they were just offices, they are according to him.
athi ucabanga ukuthi mhlawumbe kula kokade khona kamahhovisi lamaphoyisa kade kambophile la kade bamikise khona ke ngoba kade khona kamagumbi ahlukene amahhovisi lapho ke.
I'm listening, my lord.
athi yebo ngilalele.
Thank you. And then he says, upon their arrival at Clorkop, they put him in one of the unoccupied offices there. They also asked him questions in relation to the death of Senzo.
athi ngesikhathi kade lapho ke bamfaka kwigumbi elikhethekile amakwigumbi elithizeni lapho ke ngesikhathi kade bemfake khona ke kulelo gumbi baqala khona bamphenya noma bambuza ke imibuzo ke mayelana necala la kaSenzo.
I'm listening, my lord. Yes, I'm following.
athi yebo ngilalele.
Thank you. When he informed them that he knows nothing about this, they then started to assault him.
athi ngesikhathi kade aphendula amaphoyisa abatshela ukuthi nakanalo ke ulwazi mayelana nokushona kukaSenzo amaphoyisa aqala amshaya khona lapho ke.
I'm following, my lord.
athi yebo ngilalele.
He continued to deny any knowledge about the death of Senzo. Then the assault also continued, but when they realized that there's nothing that they would be able to extract from him, they then stopped the assault and took him to another office.
athi la kula waqhubeka khona ke nake ebatshela ukuthi akanalo ulwazi mayelana nokushona kukaSenzo bekepha ke amaphoyisa nawo aqhubeka lapho ke engayekile ukumshaya ke lapho ke futhi ngesikhathi kade amaphoyisa ebuka ukuthi akanalo ngempela ke ulwazi noma akanayo incazelo kade atshela amaphoyisa ke bamkhipha ke lelo gumbi lelo ke bese bamletha bamikisa kulinye igumbi noma ihhovisi khona ngalapho.
I'm following, my lord.
athi yebo ngilalele.
Thank you. In this subsequent office that they took him to, there were also other individuals there who he identified as a certain Mr. Lishabane. There was also a Sibiya there. He's not so sure whether it's general or what, but he's telling me that the way in which he was being addressed, it sounded like he was a high-ranking officer. There was also a Makubo there. There was also Constable Zungu, the one who gave you the information which led you to Absalom Zungu, his father.
Athi ngesikhathi kade bemikiseke kwigumbi lesibili ke ngemuva kokuthi kade bemfake kwigumbi lokuqala. Ngemuva ukuthi bamkhiphe kwigumbi lokuqala leli kade bamfake kulona ke bemshayela kulona ke bemphenya ke ngemibuzo ke lapho ke bamikisa kwigumbi lesibili. Ngesikhathi bekafika kwigumbi lesibili ke lapho ke kulawo bona khona amanye amaphoyisa kade akhona ke lapho ke umnumzana uLeshabane, umnumzana uSibiya akathi mhlawumbe uGeneral noma kade kuye omkhulu kula amaphoyisa kade akhona ke lapho ke futhi uMakhubo futhi noConstable Zungu ke ukhumbuthi indodana kaBaba uAbsalom Zungu ulo owanilethela ke ulwazi.
My Lord, can I then have an opportunity to comment on what has been said before we move forward? Because a lot, I won't be able to remember all these things.
Okay,
Is that fine? Yeah, can I proceed? So, my Lord, insofar as the Tembisa case 217, because I want to start there, Tembisa 217 of 3/2019, there is no statement in that docket.
Athi ke mina necala sethembisa ke leli lokudayisa ke idakamizwa ke case 217/03/2017 athi lapho ke akukho istatement esikhona ke ngaphakathi kwedocket lelo.
No.
My apologies.
Yeah, wait. So there is no statement that implicates or suggests that accused number 1 was questioned about this case. In other words, or that he was arrested for the matter before court and that he was then taken through interrogation or interviews insofar as that docket is concerned. There's no such statement, my Lord.
Ngiyaxolisa ke lapho ke nesilungiso sikhona ke athi mina nacala sethembisa lapho ke akukho la babhalile khona ke mhlawumbe babhale statement khona ke wathi umisolo oqala unesandla lecala leli esingalo ngaphambi kwenkantolo.
What is contained in that docket, my Lord, from the beginning, from A1 right up to the end, is the issues relating to drugs, and up to the time that the case went cold, we came on the picture. The case was reopened. It went through the trial process with. I don't mean to defame the accused, but he was convicted for those charges and not the matter relating to this matter. For the charges, when I say those charges, I'm referring to the charges of possession of drugs and ammunition. That is the conviction or announcement that was announced by the court, my Lord, in Tembisa.
Athi lapho ke ngemuva iqala likade ade beliyekile kuphela ke nje kepha ngemuva uthi bona ke bafike lapho ke baphinda futhi baluvusa ke icala lelo ke ngemuva uthi baluvusa icala bese wahamba waqhamuka phambi kwenkantolo balixoxa icala lakhe ke lapho ke bese inkosi enkantolo mthethweni icala bese wagwetshwa ke lapho ke malana nokudayisa ke idakamiswa nokuthi noma bamthole ephethe idakamiswa futhi ethole ke ephethe ke amabullet.
Now, relating to this matter specifically, my Lord, because in March, I was already assigned to lead this investigation in March 2019. At no stage, myself or any of my team members informed me that there was such information in Tembisa, because if there was such pursuance, it would have been important for me to know as I'm carrying the docket. You know, we followed a lot of information on this docket, which turned out not to be true at times or inaccurate, but you followed it once it's brought to you. So at no stage was I informed that accused 1 in particular was a suspect in this matter. The only time, and really the only time, where his name came up was with the Zungus, both the junior and the senior. That is really what made me focus, or made us focus on accused number 1, my Lord. And that's the essence of what led me to it, not the March story. I'm not aware of it, my Lord.
Athi ke ufakaza cha yena akanaloko ulwazi ukuthi ngabe yini eyenzeka ngenyanga kaMarch ngomnyaka ka2019 ngoba ke lapho akukho umuntu waqhamuka kuyena ke leqembu lakhe kwafika kwamtshela mina nolwazi kade ke analog mayelana necala leli ke lapho ke kepha ke na ulwazi oqala ke ulwazi loqala alaqhamuka kuyena ke lwaqhamuka ngoZungu ingane kaBaba uAbsalom Zungu ke ngesikhathi kade ahlezi nabo phansi bobabili lapho ke ngesikhathi kade bekhuluma mayelana negama lakaMsola uqala.
We can then proceed, my Lord, I think, and then.
Thank you. Then he further says that upon being questioned again about his knowledge about the death of Senzo, now in the presence of Lishabane, Sibiya, Makubu, and Zungu, his response being the fact that he knows nothing. That is when then Makubo suggested that he should rather be released because it is clear that he does not seem to have knowledge, or he does not seem to have been involved in the commission of, in the death of Senzo.
Athi-ke lapho-ke ngesikhathi kade akhulumisana nomnumzana uLeshabane, umnumzana uSibiya futhi kade athi mhlawumbe uGeneral noma kade kuye kade nesikhundla esiphezulu kunesikhundla salamanye amaphoyisa kade akhona-ke lapho-ke uMakhubo noZungu-ke athi yena wabatshela ukuthi akanalo ulwazi ngokushona kukaSenzo-ke lapho-ke bese umnumzana uMakhubo athi kumele bamdedele ngoba lo muntu lo uyatshengakala ukuthi cha ngempeleni akanalo ulwazi.
My Lord, look, I was not obviously in that meeting, so if it did take place, even to begin with, I won't be able to comment. But what I can say and comment on, my Lord, is insofar as Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019, because it is clearly indicated there that he was arrested for the case of dealing in drugs. The reason of him not being pursued further is because the matter was withdrawn due to the absence of the 212 statement for the authentication of the drugs. Those are the reasons that are contained in that docket. That's the first part.
Athi-ke kwiphuzu lokuqala ngathanda ukuthi akhulume mayelana nodaba lwakhona-ke uma ngaba lo mhlangano kade bewuhlelile noma uma ngaba lo mhlangano kade ukhona empeleni akanalo ulwazi lomhlangano loyo-ke ngoba kade engekho kulowo mhlangano loyo-ke. Kepha athi mana icala sethembisa lelo ukuthi waboshwa-ke boshelwa udayisa-ke idakamizwa noma utholakala inedakamizwa-ke kuyena-ke yilona icala angaze akhulume ngalo-ke lapho-ke ngoba icala kade bengaqhubekile nalo kade belimisile ngoba kade bengenawo ama-statement kade kumele ukuthi bawathole ama-212 statement.
Secondly, my Lord, there is no statement in that docket of Warrant Officer Makhubo forming part of that investigation or interview at any stage, from the initial stage up to the time the matter went to trial. Even when we were involved, Warrant Officer Makhubo did not submit any statement in that docket. So there was no statement that indicates, or perhaps one can take it further, even on the diary, the investigation diary, that says in that docket in particular around that time, because that's the only matter I can refer to, he was present.
Athi futhi okwesibili-ke lapho akukho istatement sakamnumzana uMakhubo ngaphakathi kwe-docket le lasethembisa icala lasethembisa lakamsola la kade akhulume khona ukuthi mhlawumbe kade akhona-ke noma kade mhlawumbe komunye wabalekeleli noma kade komunye kade alekelela-ke abaseshi becala.
Lastly, my Lord, I'm saying this with greatest respect, I do not understand if somebody gives an information to you, how do you spontaneously at that spot come to a conclusion that someone is not involved and must be released? I mean, if the assertion is correct, Warrant Officer Makhubo, as I'm saying, is a warrant officer, and if the assertion that is given to me is also correct that there were two generals there, the seniority is very clear. Generals will make that decision. So I don't understand how will a warrant officer, without even investigation, then will impose the decision in the presence of the general, and the generals must just follow. That doesn't make sense to me, my Lord, with greatest respect.
Athi lokho ngenhlonipho-ke enkulu akwenza umcabango othizini like namhlanje umcabango oqondile mayelana ukuthi kumnumzana warrant officer Makhubo ngoba esikhathini samanje usase warrant officer namanje ukuthi yena acabange nomhlambi aqhamuke nephuzu lokuthi kumele ukuthi bamdedeleke umsola uqala-ke lapho-ke ngapha akhulume lokho ngaphambi kwabo general bakhe ababili kade bekhona-ke lapho-ke le nto lathi into engeze yenzeke.
Yes, my Lord, that's the essence of...
Yeah, thank you, Brigadier. Let me just correct one perception from the last point of your analysis. Mr. Makhubo, from the instruction I'm getting from Mr. Sibiya, never said he should be released. Mr. Makhubo only suggested that he should be released because it appears to him, Mr. Makhubo, that he bears no knowledge about the death of Senzo. So it is therefore a little bit ingenious for you to say that Mr. Makhubo is the one who gave an order that he should be released. I just wanted to correct me.
Let's not argue about non-essentials. If you suggest something,
Yes, ma'am.
if you had said somebody else other than Makhubo suggested, but you are saying your instructions are Makhubo suggested.
Yes.
Yeah, he suggests to the generals.
Yes, madam.
Right, and he was released thereafter.
It means they
Yeah,
suggested, it means the generals bought his suggestion.
Yes, the suggestion was
So there's
taken.
nothing wrong in that.
Is that
I'm
so?
only correcting the brigadier who says it is very strange for a junior officer to instruct senior officers to release somebody else. It was only a suggestion. And on the basis of the information that they had then, they said, no, Makhubo is Vumelana now. Exactly. That's just the perception that I'm trying to correct. Thank you, sir. But let us proceed. And indeed, he was released and he never was taken to court.
bathi yebo empeleni bamdedela ke lapho kakakaze bamthathe bamnikise ngaphambi kwenkantolo.
I'm not aware, my lord. Like I said, what I know is that he was released because the 212 statement, and that's what is contained in the docket, was unavailable to take the matter forward. That's what I can comment about.
Athi yebo lapho ke bamdedela ke ngoba kade kungekho ama 212 statement lapho kade uthi abe khona ngaphakathi kwedocket.
Now, thank you, Brigadier. Before we proceed and develop this aspect of what happened at Chlorkop, it's to me it appears like a similar method that you and your team used in the arrest of accused number 1 in 2020 was also used in March 2019 when he got arrested and taken to Chlorkop. And the reason why I'm saying that is as follows.
Athi manje kumeli malana na nokubona kwakhe ke sekutshengala ngathi nenasebenzisa ke indlela eyodwa ke ngomnyaka 2020 ngesikhathi denibopha ke umsola oqala ke futhi indlela eyodwa le kade isetshenziswa amaphoyisa ngomnyaka 2019 ngoMarch ngesikhathi kade eboshwa ngesikhathi kade bemnikisa lapho eClotcop.
Now, in 2020, when you and your team, that included Sergeant Mahula, Mabena, etc., when you arrested accused number 1, or when accused number 1 was arrested, it was not directly on this case, but it was on the basis of the case of dealing in drugs. But subsequent thereto, you question him about this case. Not so?
Athi wena ke nabo sergeant nabo mnumzana bomuhula bomabhena futhi nabanye ngesikhathi kade nibopha ke umsolwa ngomnyaka 2020 kade nimbopha mana iqala lasethembisa ke kade nibophile ngicala leli kepha ngemuva uthi eboshiwe lapho ke bese namphina ke ngemibuzo ke gcina senifika kule cala leli akusenjalo.
And I'm not suggesting there is anything wrong about that.
Athi akasho ukuthi khona ke okungalungile ngokwenza lokho.
It's just the methodology.
So my lord, I'll start with the last part. The answer is correct, yes. He was arrested for the drug dealing case, and then in the background, we have done a cold case analysis insofar as this matter is concerned. That's the first part. So I agree with the last assertion, but I want to go to the first portion of Advocate Mnis's statement.
Athi malana nephuzo lo ke yebo kuyiqiniso kade bembopha malana iqala leli lasethembisa ke udayisa ke idakamiswa ke lapho ke kepha malana nephuzo loqala umile aqhamuke ngalo ke uyothi abuye aze kulona ke manje.
When we did that, my lord, I was given a mandate to investigate this case. So in other words, one was not sitting randomly and selecting or deciding that you will pursue suspects which you do not have a docket on. This docket was given to us, to me, to lead as the investigating officer. As part of the investigation, we obtained evidence that was pointing us to accused number 1. And it is on those bases that then the analysis, the methodology was then embarked on to focus on him, not in the absence of this docket. So this docket was the basis of what we were doing.
Athi yebo khona ke lapho kunjalo ke kepha ukhumule khona nje naye umnumzana bamnika idocket leli ukuthi akaseshe noma ke enze uphenyo lakhe mayelana necala leli ngesikhathi kade besenza lokho kade besenza kama call analysis lapho ke uma ebiza ngegama lesingisi ke lapho ke ngesikhathi besenza lokho kula khona ke kade benolwazi lolo kade banikisa komsola wokuqala.
Now, in March 2019, my lord, I was still in possession of this docket, as I've said to date. The members who appears there as the arresting officers in the Tembisa case were not part of my investigation team. They are local detectives, they are police officers, crime prevention and detectives from Tembisa. They were not part of the investigation prior to me being present. They are not part of the investigation team up to date. So they have no knowledge or relevance insofar as I know, insofar as this matter is concerned. It will then be peculiar because what questions do you put? And how do you dispute the answers when you are not sitting with the docket? Because if somebody answers you or you're building a case, you need to see if what is being collected is in line with your docket. So how will investigators pursue someone on a matter that they're not sitting with the docket with, because in March 2019, I was in possession of the original docket, and I was the lead investigating officer, and I was not part of this interview or whatever that transpired in Tembisa, my lord.
Athi-ke lapho-ke ngomnyaka kaMarch ngo-2019 kade aphethe-ke idocket leli licala leli ke kuyena-ke ufakazi ngesikhathi kade aphethe idocket leli ke kuyena-ke kade azama ukwenza-ke uphenyo lwakhe noma usasha kwecala leli-ke kepha mayelana nodaba lwamaphoyisa lasethembisa-ke wona-ke athi akuwona-ke kunala abahlangana khona-ke mayelana necala leli-ke ngoba wona kade bephenya icala lasethembisa-ke lakamsola ngesikhathi ade eboshiwe khona-ke lapho eboshiwe ukuthi watholakala-ke eneyidakamizwa kuyena-ke noma watholakala edayisa-ke idakamizwa kuyena-ke futhi athi kule docket leli aliphethe lana-ke ngesikhathi amaphoyisa ekhulumisana nawo-ke akukho la abhala khona i-statement amnikeza mayelana nomsolo wokuqala kule docket leli lalecala esingalo la ngaphambi kwenkantolo manje.
No, any of my members that are referred to, my lord, with the exception of Warantusa Makubo, because I'm being told he was there, although I can't confirm. But insofar as the team members that I'm aware of, none of them, including Warantusa Makubo, by the way, informed me that this man was arrested. There was a suspect arrested by the name of Sibia, and he participated in that interview. He didn't tell me that in the briefing when we were still talking together. I don't recall him saying there's a suspect arrested, and he interviewed that suspect and decided or suggested that that particular suspect must be released.
Athi ngesikhathi bekhulumisana no-warrant officer Makubo akunala warrant officer Makubo wamtshela khona ukuthi kunomlisa uthizeni abamiza ukuthi uSibiyake owaboshwa-ke lapho-ke ngesikhathi eqeda kuboshwa khona bese bamphina-ke ngemibuzo-ke kepha uma bengatholi-ke ulwazi mayelana nalo muntu uma bengatholi ulwazi kade luqhamuka kuSibiyake lapho-ke bese wacabanga wathi yena-ke wasuggest ukuthi kumele ukuthi bamdedele akukho la wakhuluma khona-ke u-warrant officer Makubo kuyena-ke ufakazi.
Yes, my lord. That's how far I can take it at this stage.
Athukula angaza khulume agcine khona-ke kulesikhathi samanje.
Thank you, Brigadier. The methodology. In 2019, March 2019, accused number 1, that's my analysis, gets arrested for something else, but he gets quizzed on the death of Senzo Meyiwa. And I'm not saying there is anything wrong in that. I'm just trying to draw an analogy on the methodologies that have been used. You get arrested, he gets arrested on something else, he gets quizzed on something else.
Athi-ke lapho-ke ngenyanga kaMarch ngomnyaka 2019 umsola wokuqala uyaboshwa lapho eshola ke icala elithizeni-ke ngesikhathi kade aboshwe icala elithizeni bese baqhamuka bambuza-ke imibuzo-ke mayelana necala lokushona kukaSenzo.
So, my lord, the methodology that is being explained to me by Advocate Mnisi, okay, let me talk about the cold case methodology. It doesn't work that way. Perhaps let me just put it, because perhaps there's a misunderstanding of how cold case analysis or the methodology, if I can use that term, works. How it works, my lord, you need to have the basis. You need to have a docket that you are pursuing, that is cold. In embarking to solve that matter, you then apply various methods of identifying parallel cases to the same target that you are pursuing. But there must be a basis. So you can't just take a case random that has nothing to do with what you are investigating, and then, because there won't be a connection. So there must be a basis. Like in this instance, there's a death of Senzo Meyiwa. The reason we apply this methodology is because we're trying to connect this suspect to this main charge. Now, that is now the death of Senzo Meyiwa. Insofar as the Tembisa matter, those investigators were not part of this case. So they could not have applied this method insofar as this matter before court is concerned, because they were not in possession of this investigation, they were not part of this investigation, so they could not bring anything to this matter. If they applied it, it was for something else, but definitely not this matter.
Athi-ke lapho-ke uma besenza kuphenyo lwabo-ke lapho-ke bagxinize ekutheni benze kuphenyo mayelana necala leli ababhekene nalo kusuke benalo ngaphambi kwabo-ke lapho-ke futhi oqhubeka wajobela washo khona njalo ukuthi mayelana necala leli-ke lapho kona-ke kula kade bezama ukuxhumanisa khona-ke umsola mayelana necala leli noma mhlawumbe amlethe kule cala leli mayelana nolwazi kade analo-ke ngesikhathi lesi bekaphenya-ke icala leli-ke noma mayelana nolwazi lolu kade alutholile ngesikhathi bekasenza ukusesha kwakhe kwecala leli futhi waqhubeka washo khona njalo ukuthi amaphoyisa ecacisa lapho ke Thembisa mayelana necala leli likamsolwa lasithembisa ke kade engekho kule cala leli esingalo la enkantolo futhi abanalo ulwazi mayelana nedocket lecala leli esinalo la phambi kwenkantolo manje.
Yes, my lord.
Thank you, Brigadier. Brigadier, is it not your evidence? Oh, I'm sorry. An indulgence, my lord.
Biakman.
I'm sorry about that, my lord. Apparently this up and down movement is going to be it's going to occur very frequently. I may apologize in advance for that.
No.
Thank you.
I'm used to it. 2 years I've been watching it.
Yes, my lord. Unfortunately now it's on my shoulders. Thank you, my lord. Now, Brigadier, before I forget this aspect, wasn't really part of your evidence that upon your appointment as investigating officers in this matter, you made copies of the dockets and gave other police who were also appointed as investigators in this matter, including Makubu.
Mnumzana manje umeli uthanda kwazi la kuwena ukuthi ngabe kade kungasi ufakazi bakho lo wabukhuluma ukuthi ngesikhathi bowukhethiwe njengomholi wabaseshi becala leli lawo nake wenza kulapho nake wena kwenza amakhophi khona ke bese wanikeza ke amanye amaphoyisa la kade usebenzisana nawo ekuthizeni baphenye ke icala noma kade usizana nabo ekuthizeni baphenye icala leli wakhuluma igama lika mnumzana warrant officer Makubu.
That is correct, my lord.
Yebo kuyiqiniso.
So why then do you say you were the only person who was in possession of the case docket? Other police people would not have known what was the content of this docket that related to the death of Caesar or of Senzo.
Manje bathi kungane ukuthi kuphela kade uphethe ke docket leli lalecala leli kepha ke amanye amaphoyisa kade engenalo ulwazi lokuthi ngabe yini eqokethwe ngaphakathi kwedocket leli lokushona kukaSenzo.
No, I think, my lord, perhaps I was misunderstood. I said, and that's why I said it's important for me to refer to Tembisa case 217, because that's what I can factually connect to the incident of March 2019. And I'm saying those members, the police officers in that case, which I can read in terms of the investigating officer, read their statements, the arresting officers, they were not part of this investigation team, and therefore they were not privy to this investigation. I'm referring to those police officers who were not involved, who were involved in Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019, because that is the incident I can talk to, my lord, where I could see that in March, accused number 3, and it's the only incident in March where he was arrested and then later released, those police officers did not have even the copies of this docket, but they were also not part of this investigation. So I'm saying on those bases, they could not have known what is contained in the docket.
Athi lapho ke mhlawumbe uconto naka awukaze umzwisise kahle ke mail uma ngabe khuluma ngokuthi amaphoyisa la kade engahambisani nabo noma kade amaphoyisa la kade angekho ngaphansi kwethimba leli lokusesha kwicala leli. Ukhuluma ngamaphoyisa kade asesha icala sethembisa ke lapho ke le case number u217/03/2019 lapho ke athi amaphoyisa lawo ke kade engekho ngaphansi kwethimba lakhe lokusesha icala leli esingalo la phambi kwenkosi enkantolo. Athi bona kade besesha icala la sethembisa ke la umsolo kade ethwese icala lokutholakala inedakamiswa noma icala lokuthi bamthole idayisa ke idakamiswa lapho ke futhi ngemuva kwalapho klasi lebamdedela khona ke yena ke ngoba kade bengatholi kama statement we212.
Yes, my lord, that's my answer.
Athi yebo iyona impendulo yakhe leyo.
Thank you, sir. But in your analysis and in your answer, why are you avoiding to include Makubo as a person who also who had a duplicate or who had information about this Senzo Meyiwa's case?
Bathi mina ngingaza kokungani ke uMakhubo ungamfakile ngamasheke malana icala leli kade analo ke noma ne docket leli kade analo ke lokushona kuka Senzo Meyiwa.
Because I'm sorry before you answer, because accused number 1 specifically mentioned that he was also a clerk.
Ngoba ke umsolo qala ukukhulumile ukuthi kade akhona ke lapho ke clerk.
My lord, excuse me, I dealt with the first part too. So Warranto Samakubo's name came up on the first assertion that was made by Advocate Mnisi when he said, do I confirm or am I changing from that evidence that I've made copies for the other investigators in this matter? That included Warranto Samakubo, and my answer was yes. Then I moved forward to say the members involved in the Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019 were not part of this investigation. They were not reporting to me, no, they were part of the investigation team that was before us. So based on those, based on that knowledge, my lord, I do not see then on what basis would they have had copies of the docket. That is the first part, my lord.
Athi ke kuphuzu loqala ke la ungathanda ukuthi akho aqinize lo daba lo olulandelayo ukuthi abaseshi noma abantu kade bekhona ngaphansi kwethimba lakhe besesha noma bephenya icala leli kade ebenzela amakhophi bese wabanikeza amakhophi edocket lila edocket lalicala leli ke kepha ke ukhumule khona ukuthi amaphoyisa ke lapha ethembisa ke mayelana necala le case 217/03 of 2020 ke bona kade bengenaso isandla noma kade bengalekeleli lutho mayelana necala leli eqhamuka phambi kwenkosi enkantolo manje sibhekane nalo icala lokushona kukaSenzo Meyiwa futhi uyasho khona ukuthi bona kade behambisana nelinye iqembu lapho ke thembisa ke ngesikhathi kade besenza uphenya kwicala labo ke malana nomsolwa leli kade benalo lokuthi bathola umsolwa edayisa idakamiso.
Secondly, my lord, I said I spoke to Warrant Officer Makubo because at that stage we were still communicating. Hence, I was able to inform them at the time about Zungu, the initial stage, with Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi. At no stage did Warrant Officer Makubo informed me that he was called to an interview where accused 1 was involved, or rather was questioned. At no stage he made that assertion to me, my lord, or any of the team members of the team, my lord.
Athi khona ke lapho ke kade khulumisana futhi no Lieutenant Warrant Officer Makubo kepha akaze amtsheleke futhi khona komunye ambizile na ukuthi Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi lapho ke nabo akaze bamtshela ukuthi kade bekhulumisana nomsola uqala noma kade bemphenya ke nona nemibuzo noma kade bembuza ke imibuzo. Ngesikhathi leso ke.
Yes, my lord, that's my response.
So, Brigadier, in short, you then saying that this allegation that accused number 1 is saying, or this information that is coming up from accused number 1, according to you, it could never have happened that way.
Manje athumeli ngabe usho ukuthi mayelana nolwazi loqhamuka kumsola oqala usho ukuthi mayelana nenkulumo yakhe yonke ke lonto la yakaze yabakhona noma yakaze yenzeke.
My lord, I can confirm, as I've said, that he was arrested, but the arrest related to the drug dealing. So my response, my lord, it must not be misunderstood to be saying I was not present in so far as what happened in Tembisa. If the assertion is that there were certain discussions, I do not know. I was not part of that. I'm simply giving evidence on what I could put my hands on. And I'm saying the first part of Tembisa matter is the docket of Tembisa. In that docket, there is no reference of what is being put to me. That's the first part. The second part, insofar as this matter that is before court, which I was leading in March 2019, there is no information that was brought to me by any of the investigators that accused number one is a suspect and is being interviewed. On those basis, my lord, it will be difficult for me to say, yes, it happened. On what basis? I was not there. So if it happened, my lord, I wouldn't know. I was not there. But there's no evidence or basis that supports that narrative in both dockets, my lord.
Athi kula madocket omabili ke lapho ke na ke akukho la bamtshela khona ukuthi umsolo oqala ke aboshiwe futhi ngesikhathi kade aboshwe ngaso ke bese bamaphoyisa ke amphenya ambuza ke imibuzo ke lapho ke bese babuya bamtshela ke ngenyanga kaMarch ngomnyaka ka2019 athi akukho la laba kade asebenzisana nabo ethizeni ke baseshi icala leli noma baphenya icala leli babuya bamtshela ukuthi umsolo oqala kade aboshiwe mayicala laseThembisa ke lapho ke le kade alboshelwe futhi babuya bakhuluma naye lapho athi akukho la yena ke ufakazi ababuya bamtshela.
Yes, that's my response, my lord.
Thank you, Brigadier. That sounds much better. The fact that you did not receive information from those who participated in this incident does not mean that this did not happen. Not so.
Nanoma kuukuthi wena ke mnumzana ukaze ke uthole ulwazi malana namaphoyisa la kade ahlezi nomsolo aphansi bembuza ke imibuzo lokho akusho ukuthi lokho akaze kwenzeke
Because you are not there.
ngoba kade ungekho lapho ke.
I was not there, my lord. I think I've answered that. I don't know how far can I take it now.
Yeah, just for my edification.
Yes.
Athi yebo ngangekho lapho.
Is it possible? Oh, sorry.
Athi yebo ke lapho kade ngingekho futhi angazi ukuthi ngaphendla ngithini ke manje.
General Leshabane was the most senior guy there at that day. There was a commissioner of police, obviously, above him.
There was, so General Shabane and General Sibiya is a DNC now.
Right.
Then, yes, they would have been in the same level.
Yeah.
Yes. But also General Sibiya, at that time, what I know, my lord, he was not in the police. He was doing some other work in Johannesburg. So General Shabane, but they were in the same level, the level of Major General when General Sibiya was there. But subsequent to that, he's now a Deputy National Commissioner. This is now General Sibiya, currently.
So a general can interview a suspect called Ratamokotling. There's no docket which is opened. There are no notes which are kept of the discussion or the interview or the interrogation. And yet you, as the colonel, in charge of the investigation, you never got any notification.
That's why, my lord, I said I'm finding that very strange, particularly if you take into account the level of experience. General Sibiya was the head of the Hawks in Gauteng.
Okay.
So he's a detective by nature. He's now the Deputy National Commissioner currently in the country. General Shabane was even though he was a cluster commander in the North Rand area, but he was a detective as well. And so that's why I'm saying how the narrative is being told to me, I can't take it further than that, my lord.
Kade kuza senkanto ukuthi manje ke lapho kusho ukuthi umnumzana uGeneral Major General Sibiya futhi no General Leshabana ke lapho ke ngabe kade akhona ke omunye mhlawumbe kade anesikhundla esiphezulu esingaphezulu kunesomunye bese ufakazwa kuphela ngokuthi kade ikhundla zabo zilingana ke bona ke bobabili ke lapho ke futhi asho ukuthi khona manje kumnumzana omunye ukhona ke lapho ke sele ku Deputy National Commissioner lapho ke bese yade bebuza ukuthi manje lokho yena athi akakuthule kahle ukuthi lokho kungenzeka kade kwenzeke kanjani ngoba kade anganalo ulwazi lalo.
As it please the court, madam. May I just respond to what the court wanted to inquire from the witness here? This witness just indicated that he wasn't there.
Yeah.
So if those are the questions that are mind-boggling in the mind of the court, for the court to get first-hand information on whether or not there were notes which were kept there, whether or not there were not notes, the very best person who can come and demystify the court on this kind of a mystery which is there is the person himself, not this witness.
No, fine.
Because he wasn't there.
No, quite.
It will therefore be very improper to conclude this matter on the understanding that...
No, you're reading what I not...
Thank you, my lords.
I'm just the modus operandi.
Yes.
like me here,
Yes,
the JP,
yes,
the deputy JP,
yes, my lord.
it goes with structures.
Yes.
They hold a meeting with Ratamakwatling.
Yes,
They don't keep any notes. There's no docket. That's what I want to understand. That's all. It has got nothing to do. It's just the protocol. Because somebody is being interrogated.
yes,
After being assaulted, I don't know if you still remember that.
yes,
He's assaulted,
yes,
and then he's brought before a general, the
yes,
Shabani,
yes,
and Sibia,
yes,
and Makubu.
yes,
And then nothing happens. They just say, let him go.
But as I'm saying, my lord, if
fine.
the court is really interested in getting to know about the dynamics of what happened there, the most relevant people is not this witness,
Yeah,
because
no,
he
fine.
wasn't there.
You are right.
It is those people who were
Fine,
there.
no problem.
I think Sivia is still alive, my lord. He's
No.
a deputy national commissioner. Lishabane, I think, is still alive.
Yeah, fine.
Yes. And they are readily available to come to court if the court was
Yes,
given
the late,
instruction that they should come.
the late Mr. Mgomezulu said he was going to call the Chaban, if you recall. Maybe you've forgotten. I don't forget.
I was representing accused number
Yeah,
3.
no, I'm
my
just
lord.
telling you.
I don't know if that
Mr.
was said
Ngomelo
or
can
what.
confirm that, and even Mr. Ramosipidi. Remember?
I do remember that.
Thank you.
Then
Right.
it,
Let
then
us
it
make
means he will
progress.
come, my lord. He will come.
Let's make progress.
Yes. Now, that was just part of the methodology. Person gets arrested in one docket. They quiz him on something else. He gets arrested on the other docket. They quiz him on something else. And as I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with that. There's definitely nothing. There's nothing unlawful with that. But further to this, Mr. Sibia informs me that Zungu, when he testified here, he also expatiated about what could have happened at Chlorkop. I need to go and refresh my memory on this. Let us just put this fact in abeyance.
athi lapho ke umuntu uyaboshwa boshe icala leli icala thizeni ngesikhathi ebosha icala thizeni ke lapho bambuza bamphenya ke nemibuzo elinike icala thizeni bese bamdedela kwicala lithizeni kade bemphenya ngalo imibuzo noma kade lecala thizeni bembophele eboshelwe lona ke futhi umnumzana uSibiye athi umnumzana ka uZungu ngesikhathi kade la ngaphambi kwenkantolo ithulo ufakazi bakhe kunolunye udaba angalikhulumile kahle ngendlela eqondile.
My Lord, so there are two responses to that. So the first part of Zungu, I was not here when he testified, so I won't be able to assist even when that evidence is found on record. So that's the first part.
Athi kunamaphuzu amabili ke bakhulume ngawo ke lana udaba lophuzu oqala la kaMnumzana ke uZungu ngeke akhona ukukhuluma mayelana nalo ngoba ngesikhathi umnumzana uZungu kade alethe ufakazi bakhe ngaphambi kwenkantolo ke yena ke ufakazi wamanje kade angekho ke lapho ke futhi namodaba lo kade likhona la ngaphambi kusenkantolo beshicelele phansi angeke akhona ukuthi aphefumule mayelana nalo.
The second part, my Lord, the method, the methodology, I think is misunderstood. You need to have the main docket. That's how it works. So you need to have a docket that is a dilemma, that is difficult to resolve. Then once you have that docket, the second thing, you need to have sight of the targets. Your suspects must be on site, the person that you want to pursue. And once you have that person on site, in the absence of evidence at that stage, then you apply the methodology of identifying other cases that can bring this person closer. But there must be a base, there must be a docket that is difficult to connect, or rather that is unsolved, and because of the lack of evidence at the time, we are not able to arrest the suspect, in other words, the target or the suspect. If the evidence is sufficient, you go straight to the suspect. You don't have to go around applying the methodology. But if there is difficulty, then you will apply the cold case analysis of identifying other cases. While you are addressing this person on the other cases, then we are looking into the main docket. So there must be a main docket. And my problem, when I said perhaps the understanding is not correct, my Lord, is that the members of Tembisa who dealt with Tembisa case 217 of 2019 were not in possession, because even Warren Tembisa Makobo, when he was called there, if he was called, he was not part of those members. So those members could not have been in possession of this docket. Only the investigators, as I've said, my Lord, I was in possession of the original members of the team were in possession of the copies, then the team members can then apply this method because they know what we are looking for in relation to evidence that we have, not when you don't have any docket that you need to solve, my lord.
Uphendulile ufakazi ngalendlela ke landelayo athi esikhathini esiningi ke uma ngabe oyibona bephethe i-main docket docket elikhulu noma docket elikhethekile ke lapho ke kulabo abheka khona ke kumahlangothi ke amaningi ekuthizeni lo muntu othizeni abasuke bacingana naye ukuthi bangamthola kanjani ke lapho ke kulabo apply khona ke le method akhulume ngayo isilimi lesingisi elijulile ke lapho ke athi ngesikhathi besenza lokho ke kulabo azama ukuxhumana khona ke uxhumanisa khona ke amanye amacala ke amaningi ke la ngaza gcina ke amacala amaningi angaza gcina abaletheke kulomuntu othizeni osuke bacingana naye kuthizeni bamthole esikhathini esiningi ke athi lapho ke uyavuma ukuthi yebo abeqembu lakhe abeqembu lezokusesha lakhe lawa abakade asebenzisana nabo kade ebenzele amakhophi bese obanikeza amakhophi wale docket leli esinalo la ngaphambi kwenkantolo kepha ukuthi yini yaqhamuka ngesikhathi amaphoyisa asethembisa ke phenya icala lasethembisa ke athi akanalo ulwazi lokho ke ngoba amaphoyisa asethembisa kade engenalo idocket leli esinalo la ngaphambi kwenkantolo futhi amaphoyisa asethembisa kade engazi ukuthi yini equkethiwe noma ekhona noma yini engekho ngaphakathi kwedocument kwedocket leli esinalo la ngaphambi kwenkantolo nokuthi uma ngabe warrant officer makhubo wahamba wayethembisa ke lapho ke bese wakhuluma namaphoyisa asethembisa yena uthi akanalo ulwazi lwalokho nokuthi yini wakho bakhuluma ngayo nokuthi yini abangakaze bakhulume ngayo.
And lastly, my lord, if a suspect is pursued, interviewed or questioned for this matter, for example, record, even if it's done by part of the team members, they will have to have some form of communication, maybe arrest, a statement, and the reason why the person was released or eliminated in the case. So there must be a record on the main docket that Mr. Sorensoso was pursued, this investigation was done and could not be connected on the matter. Even if it's released at the station for that matter, to say, based on this reason, the person is then released or could not be connected into this matter if things are done in relation to the matter that is before court. And I'm saying, my lord, there is no such in this docket that indicates that accused number 1 was arrested for this particular matter, or things were questioned, rather questions were put to him about this matter by those officers who have done it, or even their statements for that matter, my lord. There isn't one here. There isn't one also in the Tembisa docket.
Athi ke lapho uma ngaba amaphoyisa kade yakhuluma khona ke nomsolo oqala mayelana necala leli esibhekene nalo umcala umsolo oqala qhamuke ngalo ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo kumanje noma esikhathini samanje ke lapho ke amaphoyisa kade ekhona ke lapho ke bezobhala istatement sokuboshwa kwakhe ke futhi nesizathu sokuthi bamdedele futhi nala kade bembuza khona ke imibuzo ke bekuzoqhamuka ngaphakathi noma kade noma lokho bekuzoba khona ngaphakathi kwedocket leli esinalo la ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo ngoba athi uma ngabe bheka ama statement akhona la ngaphakathi kwedocument leli kwedocket leli akukho la kubhalwe khona ke malana nodaba lolo.
Yes, my lord, that's my response.
Brigadier Kinidi, you know, I'm standing here, I'm wondering if you're really listening to yourself, and I'm saying this with due respect. Now, if you say there is nothing in the docket that they were investigating, that Tembisa case 2173 of 2019, to demonstrate that they had an interview with accused number 1, are you suggesting, Brigadier, that in the docket, on the strength of which accused number 1 was arrested, that drug-related issue docket, is there anything, if we're to get into that docket, that we're going to find that accused number 1 was also interviewed in relation to this matter?
Manje athi ummeli akazi ukuthi mnumzana uma ngabe ukhuluma kade uzizwa noma kade uzilalele na usho ukuthi ngesikhathi umsola kade boshiwe lapha manje icala lasethembisa lidayisa ke idakamizwa noma lokutholakala ke phethe idayimiso ke na ke usho ukuthi uma ngabe sesingahamba sicinge idocket lelo sibese silithole uma sibheke idocket lelo ke usho ukuthi akunala ababhalile khona ukuthi umsola kade bemphenya ke imibuzo makade bembuza ke imibuzo mayelana icala leli.
My lord, perhaps I was misunderstood. I'm saying in the Tembisa docket, the charge there is drug dealing.
Athi ke ucabanga mhlamba kade bengamzwile kahle uthi lapho mina icala sethembisa ke umsola waboshelwa utholakala ke enedakamizwa noma watholakala idayisa idakamizwa.
And I'm saying in that docket there is no indication that accused number 1 was arrested for this matter or questioned about the death of Senzo Meyiwa, and I'm referring to that particular docket, my lord. There is no such statement or any assertion in that docket. The charges are ones related to drug dealing all the way up to the time when the evidence was led and concluded in Tembisa Court.
Athi ku-docket laseThembisa ke akukho la babhalile khona ke ukuthi umsolwa kade bembuza ke imibuzo mayelana nokushona kukaSenzo Meyiwa. Kepha okhona oqukethwe ngaphakathi kwe-docket laseThembisa ke case 217/03/2017 kula khona kade umsolwa evela phambi kwenkantolo noma kade ethose ecala lokudayisa idakamizwa noma lokutholakala ke nedakamizwa ngesikhathi biqala ke ukwenza usashe ecala lelo ke laze lavela phambi kwenkantolo baze baqeda ke lisenkantolo. Akukho la kubhalwe khona ke ukuthi yena ke bambuza ke imibuzo mayelana nokushona kukaSenzo Meyiwa.
And I'm saying, my lord, secondly to this docket, which is relevant to the death of Senzo Meyiwa, there is no statement, be it from Warrant Officer Makubo, or any other police officer, that suggests that accused number 1 was once a suspect prior to us approaching him prior to us having sight on him, and then subsequently arrested on the 30th of May 2020. That he was once questioned or taken in as a suspect in March 2019. It's silent. So you don't find his name in this docket, which should have been the docket that talks to his presence, because then it means he would have been interviewed or pursued for this matter. And I'm saying there's no such statement that indicates that he was once a person of interest.
Athi futhi mayelana nedocket leli elikhona la phambi kwenkosi enkantolo ke docket eliqala leli sibhekene nalo ke lokushona kukaSenzo Meyiwa, athi akukho la abaphoyisa abhale khona ke nomhlamba warrant officer Makubo watshela amanye ababhala phansi kwestatement ukuthi ke umsolwa kade eboshiwe futhi ngesikhathi bekaboshiwe ngaso ke mayaqala le kade eboshiwe nalasithembisa kukhona ke isikhathi bambuza kade bemphenya ngemibuzo noma kade bembuza ke imibuzo mayelana nokushona kukaSenzo Meyiwa. Athi nanoma yiliphi iphoyisa elikade likhona ngaphansi kwethimba lakhe ke akukho la bakhulumi khona ke ngokuthi umsolwa uqala kade ebuzwa ke imibuzo mayelana nokushona kukaSenzo Meyiwa.
Lastly, my lord, as I've said, and that should not be misunderstood, I've said I was not there when he was arrested in 2019. I'm simply commenting on what is before me. If you make a session to say certain directions, discussions went that way, I was not there. But I'm saying both dockets don't tell me that he was arrested for the death of Senzo Meyiwa, my lord. The docket speaks for themselves.
Athi futhi okugcina ke yena ukukhuluma ngento ke anayo la ke yena ke esandleni sakhe noma kayiphethe phambi kwakhe akukho la kubhalwe khona ke ukuthi yena ke kade bemphenya imibuzo ngesikhathi bekaboshiwe mayaqalelela kaSenzo Meyiwa.
That's my response, my lord.
Athi impendulo yakhe ke leyo.
I've said, Brigadier, we will park that issue relating to what could have happened at Chlorkop until I confirm what is contained in the record on the basis of what the witnesses who testified about Chlorkop said.
Athi okwamanje kusothi sime kancane kubana nodaba lwalapha ke Chlorkop size sithole athothole kufakazi kade bukhona ngaphambi kwenkantolo ufakazi ade bulethiwa abanye ke ufakazi manana nendaba yase Chlorkop.
I understand, my lord.
Athi yebo ngiyakuzwa.
My Lord, I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
It's 11:39.
yeah, let's adjourn for tea.
I'm not suggesting an adjournment, my Lord,
What are you
because
suggesting?
in any event, I would have requested that we have an early adjournment today to enable me to go and verify the information that has subsequently come up here that I said we are going to put in abeyance. I would have suggested that we adjourn at 1 o'clock for the day to go and go through that information.
Which information is that, Mr. Minister?
It relates to the evidence of Zungu. It could not only be Zungu, it relates to the testimony of the witnesses who testified about what could have happened at Chlorkop. I think,
We've got that information.
yes, it's there.
Mr. Mbaloi can give you. I can tell you what was said.
I need to go verify
Are there,
for
were,
it
there
myself.
two, were there two meetings at Chlorkop?
I'm not sure.
You clarify that because the evidence we have here
Yes.
is about one meeting. Am I correct, Mr. Mbaloi?
Yes, indeed, my lord.
One meeting.
That we see me
And we've got the
proceedings of March 2024.
dramatis personae of that meeting. who was there, how it came about. It's on evidence there. So Mr. Balui and Mr. Ramosepiri can help you, even Mr. Ngumal. Do you recall that meeting? At
I'll have to
Turkop.
go through the records.
Hello?
I'll have to go through the records.
Okay, fine. So how long should I adjourn?
I was suggesting, because I was saying, I'm not suggesting for an adjournment now. I'm not so sure if my colleagues will be compatible with the fact that we go through up until lunchtime and then we take the adjournment at lunchtime.
Okay, let's do it for 15 minutes. then.
Thank you, my lord.
Yes. Sir. Yes, Mr. Minister.
Thank you, my lord. Thank you, Brigadier. Now, accused number 1 gets arrested on the strength of a warrant of arrest in relation to the drug matter. Subsequent thereto, there are questions that are put to him relating to this matter, and then he say things which, according to the police, are very relevant, and then the process of the confessions and the pointing out then thereafter followed, not so?
bathi umsolo wokuqala ke waboshwa ngemuva ukuthi adekhishwe incwadi ukuthi yena akaboshwe kamaphoyisa malana nodaba lokuqala lakhe lokudayisa isidakamizwa noma lokutholakala kwemidakamizwa ngesikhathi kade aboshiwe lapho ke bese kwathathwa ke lapho kwabuza imibuzo ke bese ngemuva kwalokho kwegcina bemenza ke enza ke confession bese wahamba wayokhomba ke
It is so, my lord.
athi yebo kunjalo.
So my following of the events up to thus far, they are still correct.
Ushuthi indlela ngitshile ngayo nezinto noma nendlela izinto ezenzeka ngayo ke ushuthi kuyiqiniso.
Yes, but with the exception of the event of the 31st, and that relates to the witch doctor, the traditional healer, Mr. Zwane. So it's the questioning on the 30th of May.
Yes.
31st, they are pointing out to Mr. Zwane and
Yes.
obviously that interview, and then subsequent to that, then the formal interview. The pointing out of the 5th
On
of
the 5th.
June. Yes. So that is the correct.
Thank you.
Athi yebo khona ke kunjalo ke malana namalanga lawo ke langa la nge-30 langa la nge-31 zaka May futhi langa la nge-5 zaka June la kade ekhonjwa khona ke.
Now, after the pointing out, which happened on the 5th, the state, when I say the state now, I'm referring to the side of the police. The police were then able to form a reasonable suspicion on the content of the information on the confession, and the pointing out the state then form a reasonable suspicion that indeed here, definitely accused number 1 has got a case to answer in relation to the death of Senzo Meyiwa.
Ushuthi ngemuva kwelanga la nge-5 ngemuva ukuthi nake enze i-confession bese futhi kwakade confession kade khona ke futhi wakhonjwa khona ke lapho ke futhi ushuthi amaphoyisa aba neintsolo ezibalethela ukuthi yena ke unecala kumele aphendule kulo malana nokushona kukaSenzo Meyiwa.
That suspicion, I believe, my lord, was there, but it was not the end. As I've said earlier, we needed to follow up things that are mentioned, which we did on the confession, to corroborate it. But also then there were other investigations in the very same matter where witnesses in the hostel and different places were then interviewed and subsequently statements taken. So there was a whole lot of investigation taking place around this period of the confession. It was not just the confession and the pointing out. There were other investigations in support of the confession, and where there's contradiction, where we discovered that this is not accurate, my lord.
Athi yebo khona ke kunjalo ke ngemuva kade khona confession kade khona ke futhi nolwazi kade benalo ke futhi nofakazi nolwazi lofakazi kade benalo ke malana nodaba lama statement athathiwe kuba kufakazi base hostel futhi nokubanye kufakazi athi yebo kunjalo ke basala ke emuva ke umhlala lokho noma ulwazi lo kade benalo.
Yes, my lord. But also the other part is that, as I've said also previously, that It was in conjunction with the NPA because there was that at that stage it was a procedural-driven investigation. So we will then share notes and follow up on certain things as well.
athi lapho-ke kade besebenzisana nohlangothi lwabeshushisi ngesikhathi kade besenza lolu cwaningo lwabo noma lokusesha kwabo-ke lapho-ke la kade beqhelana khona-ke mayelana nolwazi kade benalo-ke.
Yes, my lord. That's my question.
Thank you. So if I were to capture what you've just said now, is that subsequent to the making of the confession and the pointing out by accused number 1, you had to go and find some corroboration with regard to what was contained in the confession, and that you did in conjunction with the directives or the assistance by the prosecutors from the DPP.
Wathi usho ukuthi ngemuva ukuthi kade khona i-confession kade khona-ke lapho futhi nokukhonjwa kakhe kumsolo oqala usho ukuthi lapho kade usebenzisana khona-ke nohlangothi lwabeshushisi ngenhloso yokuthi nina-ke nithole lokho enakuthola.
So, my lord, so what I'm saying is that in the midst of that investigation, so subsequent to the confession, there were other investigations pertaining this matter that was embarked upon. And in embarking in that process, such was discussed with the NPA as they were part of the investigation, but not necessarily to say in the confession they said this and this. It was a vast investigation, but obviously as you collect and you seek guidance, you will then communicate with the prosecution and then you will get guidance and then you will follow up. But it was not one isolated. As we're embarking or looking at accused number 1, we're also looking at accused number 2 at the time in terms of the court case analysis. So it was vast. But insofar as accused 1 is concerned, it was the things that were mentioned in the confessions that we're following up and trying to collaborate it, the DNA, for example, the analysis, etc., my lord.
Athi lapho kade besenza ukusesha kuqala labo mayelana nodaba oluningi-ke lapho-ke futhi bavame ukuthi bahlale phansi-ke nohlangothi lwabeshushisi la kade bekhuluma khona-ke futhi bephana-ke izeluleko noma mhlawumbe ingcebiso zokuthi kumele benze kanjani-ke noma mhlawumbe amagama ukuthi kumele besebenze kanjani-ke mayicala leli-ke ngoba kade bengasebenzi bodwana kuphela futhi ngemuva kodaba lwe-confession futhi nodaba lokuthi kade khonjwe khona-ke lapho-ke bona bezama ukuxhumanisa-ke ufakazi babo okade bephethe mayelana nomsolo wokuqala futhi nomsolo wesibili mayelana namacala la kade benawo-ke babeza ukuthi court case ngolwimi lwesiNgisi.
Yes, my lord.
Brigadier, in essence, what I'm saying is the information that was contained in the confession by accused number 1 and the information that was in the pointing out or the pointing out itself basically served as a springboard to widen the scope of investigation, and which is the reason why then we had to go and search for other information just to confirm if what is contained in the confession is what should have been.
Bazathi usho ukuthi udaba le-confession noma ulwazi ade likhona ngaphakathi kwe-confession futhi nodaba lokuthi kade khonjiwe khona lapho umsolo oqala-ke ilona eladonsa-ke uphenya kwicala lenu la kade wona kade wahamba khona-ke bese wenza isiqiniseko sokuthi ngempeleni nangeqiniso lokhu okukhulunywa kule confession kuyahambisana nalokhu kade ukusesha noma kade ukuphenya.
That is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kuyiqiniso.
Thank you, sir. Now, accused number 1 gets arrested on the 1st, on the 30th. On the 1st, he allegedly makes a confession before Colonel Mboto. And then on the 5th, he makes allegedly pointing out before Colonel Khadebe.
Bathi-ke waboshwa kumsola ngelanga lange-31 bese lapho kwenza i-confession ngelanga lokuqala-ke eyenza ucolonel Mbotho-ke bese ngelanga lange-5 wahamba ukhomba-ke lapho-ke khonjiswa the name of the officer counsel on the
Khadebe.
Constable Mnumzana.
Not constable.
I
think it should be Colonel
Khadebe. Ucathi mhlambi lapho-ke isilungiso lapho-ke ucathi mhlambi ucolonel Khadebe.
So The dates, my lord, maybe to put them in the correct context.
Yes.
Context. The confession was made on the 31st.
Yes.
Sorry, on the 30th of
Yes.
May 2020.
Yes.
asihlungiswe lapho ke confession bayenza ngelanga lange 30 ngomnyaka ngoMay ngomnyaka 2020.
On the 1st of June 2020, he made a first appearance in Tembisa Court insofar as the appearance is relating to the drug dealing matter. That is now the events of the 1st of June 2020.
Athi ngelanga lokuqala waqhamuka ngaphambi kwenkantolo yaseThembisa ke lapho ke mayelana necala lakhe lokudayisa idakamizwa noma lokutholakala enedakamizwa.
Yes, and the confession that was made on the 30th, my lord, 30 is the one that was made to Colonel Mboto.
Bathi confession ke awayenza ke ngelanga lange 30 le ayenza ke ayenziswa kumnumzana uColonel Mboto.
And then the first, as I said, is court appearance. No events took place insofar as the confession is concerned, and then the formal pointing out was then done on the 5th by Colonel Khatebe, correctly so, my lord.
Bathi ngelanga lokuqala ngeminyaka kaJune kunyanga kaJune ngomnyaka 2020 kulakade aqala khona kuvela ngaphambi kwenkantolo yaseThembisa mayelana necala lakhe kade abukane nalo ke leli kade bemlethele na enkantolo icala lokudayisa idakamizwa noma lokutholakala enedakamizwa kulona ke futhi lapho kumnumzana Constable Khatebe la kade ehambe naye Colonel Khatebe ngelanga lange 5 zakaJune kulakade ekhomba khona ke.
Yes, that's that. I just wanted to assist on the first, on the date of the first.
No, I do admit, I said on the 1st, that's when the confession was made. It was actually on the 30th. You're correct, yes.
Correct.
Now, between the period of the 5th, which is the day on which accused number 1 made its pointing out to, or in the presence of Colonel Khatebe, and the date on which accused number 2 was arrested, which is the 16th of July, 16th June 2020. Is there anything of importance that you can bring to the attention of this court as it relates to accused number 1?
Bathi ngemuva kwelanga lange 5 zakaJune la kade ekhomba khona ke umsola oqala futhi uze ufinqe ilanga lange 16 ngenyanga kaJune ngesikhathi kushwa kumsola wesibili ke lapho ke ngabe khona yini into ongathanda ukuthi uyilethe ngaphambi kwenkosi enkantolo mayelana nodaba lwabo bobabili
In relation specifically to accused number 1,
mayelana nodaba lakamsola oqala oqondile
on the context of investigation.
mayelana nokuphenya kwecala.
Yes.
Yeah, my lord, it will be difficult to answer that question from the top of my head because I will need now to go through the docket to see, for example, what transpired from the 5th. If we interviewed someone, what statements, which is possible that we could have done that, what investigation. So I will have to really rely on the docket to be specific. I can't say from the top of my head.
Okay.
Athi ekuthizeni aphendule malana nalombuzo lokho ngendlela ke eqondile noma ngendlela ekhethekile kumele ukuthi yena ke ahambe ayofunda ke idocket abuke ukuthi mhlambe ngabe yini ekhona ke ngaphakathi kwedocket yasho khona ukuthi mhlambe ke kungatholakala ukuthi khona mhlambe usasha kwecala kade bekwenza ke lapho noma uphenya kwecala lakhe la bathatha khona kama statement wabantu abathize.
What I can say, although I'm not, and that's why I said, because I'm obvious I need to answer between the 5th and the 16th, my lord. I do know that investigation took place insofar as whatever we're doing related to the investigation or the corroboration that we wanted to get around accused number 1.
Yes.
What I'm not certain of is whether it falls within these 2 dates of the 5th and the 16th or after. So that's why I'm saying if I have to be specific, then one will have to look at the docket to see the specific dates, my lord.
Atuyazi ukuthi phakathi qhamuka kulanga le 5 zakaJune ngomnyaka 2020 kuze kufinqe ngelanga lange 16 ngenyanga kaJune ngonyaka 2020 bona kade bematasatasa besenza bephenya icala lilike kepho yasho khona ukuthi ukuthizeni aphendule ngamashina lombuzo lokade ubuziwe lapho ke kuzomela ukuthi bamvumele isikhathi esanele sokuthi ahambe ke ubuka ke docket lakhe ke abuke ukuthi mhlawumbe ngabe yini ekhona ngaphakathi kwedocket malana nomsola uqala phakathi kwesikhathi leso wathi ummeli ambuza ngaso.
Yeah, I can agree with you, Brigadier. It's very massive, but I would really appreciate if you can take time to go and just go through your documents so that as we go forward, we don't find ourselves in a situation where we say, no, but I remember, I can now remember, I remember this is what happened, stuff like that, you understand?
athi angakuthokozela lokho ukuthi wena kuhambe mnumzana bese ubuke idocket le bese ulifunde kahle ke uthola ukuthi mhla ngabe yini enzeka lapho ke ngoba athi akafundi isithule singaphansi kwesimo lezi othi wena ke usakukhumbula kepha ukhumbula isiqiniseko esigcwele.
I do understand, my lord.
Thank you, sir.
Athi yebo ngiyakuzwa.
Now, fast forward. 16 June 2020, accused number 2 gets arrested. There's a whole lot of investigation that happens around him, which culminated to, and that is on record, which culminated to a confession being made before I think a magistrate, Cronje, and Colonel Rapado, not so? It's just a very brief summary in relation to accused number 2.
But nje ngonciphile ke ngemuva ngelanga la nge-16 zaka June ngomnyaka 2020 umsolo wesibili ke waboshwa ke lapho ke ngemuva uthona ke boshiwe kade kusenza kade nisenza ukuphenya icala leni noma kade niphenya icala lelike bese ngesikhathi kube nisaphenya icala leli bese yena ke wabuya wenza confession ngaphambi ko magistrate uCronje no Colonel Orapane.
Yes, that is correct, but the sequence of the confession, my lord, the first one on the 19th of June was made to Colonel Rapado, and then on the 24th of June 2020, then to Magistrate Cronje, my lord. On the 24th.
Athi yebo kunjalo ke confession uqala wayenza ngelanga la nge-19 phambi ko Colonel Rapadi bese ke nge-24 wenza confession esibili ke lapho yenza phambi ko Magistrate Rapani
No
Cronje.
Cronje.
Thank you for that. And subsequent to that is after the 2 documents or the 2 incidents happened, then the investigation then had to proceed just to try and corroborate the information that you receive and try to get other information and stuff like that, up until such time that the docket was again put before the doors or the shores of the offices of the NPA for a decision, not so. And that's just in summary.
Athi nje ngokunciphile ngemuva ukuthi ke kwenzeka le gameko zenzeka zama confession malana nomsolo oqala futhi umsolo wesibili ke lapho ke ngesikhathi kade niseniphenya ke icala leni noma senza ukusesha kwecala leli ke kulana tata khona ke docket bese animikisa ke lapho ke kuma office ase NPA ekuthizini maletheleke isinqumo malana nodaba lolu docket.
It is so, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo.
Now, as I went through the documents, I realized that there were 2 offices of the DPP that were involved here. That's now DPP Johannesburg and the office of the DPP Pretoria. Now, firstly, which DPP was approached for the first time after you have assembled this information and presented to a DPP for a decision probably?
Bathi ke manje siyabona ukuthi ngaphakathi kwedocket leli kunama office amabili ke we-DPP National Prosecuting Authority ke lapho ke office laseGoli futhi no-office la Pretoria. Manje umuzi ukuthi ngesikhathi boqeda ukuthola kulwazi lodunalo malana nedocket leli ke ngabe wahamba yokuliphi i-office la beshushisi ekuthize ngethole ke isinqumo sabo.
It was the Pretoria, my lord, the Pretoria DPP, and my recollection of when we started engaging DPP Pretoria, Advocate Baloyi and the other advocates, were directed to go there. I think it would have been early 2019, if not somewhere in December. So, but when the matter started, when we were appointed, at that stage, this docket was under the DPP Johannesburg. We then subsequently then advised that then it's been moved to Pretoria. And that is why there was this meeting of the 26th of January that I testified about 2019, where Brigadier Perumal, myself, went to see Advocate Baloyi with Advocate Leonard and I think Advocate Mahwati and where the other members were. That was, at least I can paste that date to the 26th of January 2019. So going downwards, up to the time when the docket was presented for a decision, it was only Pretoria DPP that we're dealing with, my lord.
Athi ke ekuqaleni idocket likathelele lahamba laba ngaphansi kwamahhovisi aseGoli ke bese ngesikhathi behamba bona bebuza ke malana nalo ke bese babatshela ukuthi idocket leli sele belihambisile ke balethe kumahhovisi asePretoria we-DPP office futhi ihhovisi labeshushisi bala ePretoria ke athi uyakhumula kahle ukuthi lapho kade kusekupheleni komnyaka ka2019 uma cabanga kahle mhlawumbe kushuthi kade kuyinyanga kaNovember noma uDecember ngomnyaka ka2019 ngesikhathi kade kusenzeka lokho ke bese ke ngelanga la nge26 ngomnyaka ngelanga la nge26 January ngomnyaka 2019 right?
No. I said the docket was given to us in November 2018.
Oh, okay.
And then we met the DPP state. Well, I was in the DPP's office in Pretoria on the 26th of January 2019, and that has been the case up to the time the docket was presented for decision, and such was taken.
Athi ke silungiso lapho ke ngesikhathi idocket walimikisa lapho ngomnyaka 2018 kepha ke waya lapho kumahhovisi ase-DPP kumahhovisi wabeshushisi ke ngelanga la nge26 ngenyanga kaJanuary ngomnyaka 2019 la kade hamba khona ke nomnumzana uPhirumani futhi nabanye ke ngesikhathi bahlangana nomnumzana advocate Balui ke lapho ke futhi nabanye asebenza nabo ke lapho ngaphansi kuhhovisi labeshushisi balapho ePretoria ngesikhathi bethola khona ke isinqumo salicala le noma se-docket le.
Thank you, Brigadier. So at all material times when you're saying this was a prosecutor-driven investigation, you referring to the staff of the DPP at Pretoria?
Bathu shooting ngesikhathi uthi idocket kade lingaphansi kwabashushisi besenza ko ucwaningo lawo njengoba besenza ushasha kwabo ke futhi kade lingaphansi kuhhovisi labeshushisi bala ePretoria.
So I'm referring to both, my lord. Even in Johannesburg, when we were introduced, there were various advocates that were introduced. Advocate Dutoit, I know he was one person was leading. There was Advocate Market. I just forgot the third advocate when we were initially appointed to lead this matter.
Yes.
But insofar as these accused were concerned, they were not relevant at the time because there was no site in terms of pursuing them. When evidence started came up that connects these accused, the matter was now sitting at the DPP in Pretoria, and that was the case up to the time the matter was enrolled, my lord.
Athi ke esikhathini saqala namaqala eqaleni kwesikhathi ngesikhathi bengenabo abasolwa ngaphansi kwedocket leli kade idocket lingaphansi kwehhovisi laseGoli labeshushisi lapho uyakhumula kahle ukuthi khona ke uadvocate Dutoit futhi nabanye ke kepha ngemuva ukuthi wathuleke ulwazi lo labalithola ke malana nabasola abakhona kulecala leli idocket lo balimikisa balithatha lapha eGoli base baliletha ngapha ke abeshushisi kwashushisi bangapha ke advocate Balui laba kade akhulume ngapha.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now I follow. In essence, 2018, when you received the case docket in November, you were assisted by the office of the DPP in Johannesburg. But when information started to filter in, then the docket was then moved to the office of the DPP in Pretoria. Is that what you're saying?
Athi ngabe lokho ukukhuluma ukuthi ngesikhathi bona docket ngomnyaka 2018 ngoNovember kade usizwa ke nomolekelelo kabashushisi abakhulu baseGoli bese ngemuva thuthule ke ulwazi lo walithola ke idocket leli belingaphansi kwehhovisi abashushisi lasePretoria.
No, it's not what I'm saying, my lord.
Okay.
What I'm saying is the docket get assigned to us on the 12th specific of November 2018. Just a month later, because between January and November to January 2019, it's only 1 month, it's a month
Yes.
of December. On the 26th of January 2019, I found myself with Brigadier Perumal at the DPP of Pretoria. So in that space, in other words, from the 12th of November when we signed for the docket, then there was a directive given by the NDPP that the matter must be removed from Pretoria, from Johannesburg to Pretoria. At that stage, there was no evidence or information pointing to any of these accused. Even in that meeting that we had on the 26th of January 2019, my lord, there was no discussion relating to this accused. It was basically the dissection of what allegations, what does the docket tell us in light of these two conflicting allegations of saying there were no people who came in, no people came in, and what are we pursuing? Brigadier Perumal was there and leading that discussion, my lord. So By the time we met the DPP for the first time on the 26th of January 2020, there was no information insofar as these accused are concerned. There was information that we're following, which took us nowhere, but insofar as all the 5 accused, at that time, there was no such information, my lord.
Athi-ke lapho-ke idocket leli wathola-ke ngelanga lange-12 nyanga November ngomnyaka 2018 ngesikhathi bathola idocket leli kade ngenalutho olukhuluma khona-ke ngaphakathi kwedocket mayelana nabasolwa laba bobahlanu ngesikhathi athola idocket leli bese ngelanga lange-26 ngesikhathi kade aya lapho-ke kuyisikhathi lesi kade bamtshela ngalo ukuthi idocket sele balitransferile from lapho ekovisi laseGoli kuletha ngapha ekomofisi asePretorial labeshushisi khona-ke lapho-ke athi ukulabe kuhamba khona-ke noBrigadier Phirumani ngesikhathi kade yakhona-ke ngelanga lange-26 kumhlangano wabo-ke kade benawo-ke futhi nabashushisi abakhulu abakhona ngalapho kulelo-ofisi abashushisa nake Pretoria athi futhi ngesikhathi kade kusenzeka lokho-ke kade bengenalo ulwazi kade benalo mayelana nabasolwa bonkana abaqhamuka phambi kwenkantolo kepha kade bethola nje ulwazi oluthizeni mhlawumbe ulwazi oluthizeni ngesikhathi kade besala emuva ulwazi lolo-ke kade kungekho la kade bekhuluma ngabasolwa abaqhamuka phambi kwenkantolo kumanje.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, subsequent to the arrest of accused number 1 and accused number 2, and a certain light at the end of the tunnel started to beam, that's when then you formulated a viewpoint that indeed there was a breakthrough now, because at least we have got something tangible. I just want to understand myself in that context.
Athi ngabe yakuzwisisa yini ukuthi ngemuva uthi kutholakale noma kuboshwe kumsolo oqala futhi nomsolo wesibili-ke kulane nani atholake ukukhanya ngohlanga atholake khona-ke yebo ukhanya mayelana nokuhamba kwenu ubheka phambili ngesikhathi nisesha icala leli.
I can agree, my lord, to say we had evidence that connected, obviously, at that time, accused number 1 and 2, but there was a lot of investigation that needed to be followed, and particularly that was now emanating partly on the confession of accused 1, and then subsequently in great length on the confession of accused number 2, my lord.
Athi yebo angahambisana nenkulumo yakho-ke mail uma ukukhuluma lokho-ke kepha-ke lokho kwaqhamuka ngemuva ukuthi bona-ke bekade besenza kusesha kwicala noma kade bephinde kwicala leli futhi kwaqhamuka kudaba lwe-confession eyenziwa komsolwa oqala futhi nomsolwa wesibili.
Thank you, Brigadier. Would I be correct, Brigadier, that subsequent to the arrest of accused number 1 and the alleged confession and the pointing out that he made, and the arrest of accused number 2, and the alleged confessions that he made, you again approached the office of the DPP for guidance?
Athi-ke umeli ngemuva kokuthi umsolo oqala baboshiwe lapho-ke bese wabuya wenza confession yakhe futhi wabuya wakhomba-ke lapho-ke bese ngemuva kwalokho-ke kwaboshwa kumsolo wesibili-ke ngemuva ukuthi umsolo wesibili aboshwe kwenza ama-confession amabili-ke lapho-ke usho ukuthi ngemuva kwalokho kona waya noma wahamba wavakasha kuhhovisi labeshushisi ekuthize kutholeke i-guidance noma izeluleko zokuthi kumele usebenze kanjani.
Yeah, so my lord, I can agree that there was a continuous communication between ourselves with the DPP. But the view was not to say we have this prosecute. It was evidence or investigation that still needed to be followed on. But yes, they were kept abreast in terms of where we are. But certain things were too obvious for us to follow. So it will be just to keeping them abreast as we're doing it. You know, we're communicating with that office, and obviously then they will suggest or give opinion in addition to what we're thinking in line of investigation, in light of what we're having at the time.
Athi yebo khona-ke kunjalo kepha ngesikhathi leso bona kade bekhulumisana noma kade bexhumana isikhathi nesikhathi iqembu lakhe futhi nabashushisi abakhulu-ke basehhovisi labeshushisi la ePretoria ngesikhathi lesi kade besenza ukusesha kwecala noma kade bephenya-ke icala leli.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, it is on record that there was a lot of investigation done in this case which related to the downloading of the cell phones of accused number 3, the fact that there was a ballistic analysis that was also done as it affects, allegedly affect accused number 3, and a whole lot of other issues. But at the end of it all, having assembled and also the cell phone data records, that like cell phone communications between the accused themselves and other parties that they could have communicated with. After all that information was assembled, then you approach the office of the DPP Pretoria for a decision as well, not so?
Bathi ke ngemuva kokuthi lapho nathatha kumakhalekhukhwini kamsolo wakhe bese nathubula ke konke lonke ulwazi ade likhona ke ngaphakathi kocingo lwakhe ke bese nenza futhi ama-ballistic report malana nomsola wesithathu ke lapho noma ama-ballistic report la kade qhuketha khona ke umsola wesithathu ke lapho ke futhi nothi download yonke ke inkulumo ade zikhona phakathi kwabasolwa ke wena ke njengomphenyi njengomseshi wecala ke wahamba futhi wavakasha lapho ke ku-office labeshushisa abakhulu ekuthizeni uthola isinqumo malana nokuphenya kwecala.
That is correct, my lord.
Athi yebo kuyiqiniso lokho.
Now, would this be the day on which you went and made a presentation on all the information that you had assembled thus far, or up until that moment?
Manje ummeli yabuza ukuthi ngabe lokhu kumalana nodaba lolu lwazi kade ke unalo ngesikhathi bohamba yobatshela noma mhlawumbe ukwenza presentation ngelimi lesingisi ke nohlamba balethela ke malana nenkulumo yolwazi kade unalo kabashushisi.
Yes, there was a presentation done, my lord, in relation to what we had at the time, and that is, and I'll summarize to say, relating to the accused before court. And obviously, Ms. Kelly Kumalo, as at the time, we felt that she was a trigger point. So there was such a presentation, and subsequent to that, and I've dealt with this part, a decision was taken to move on these 5 accused, and then subsequently, then the warrants were applied, issued, and then the matter was enrolled, my lord.
Athi yebo khona ke kunjalo kade khona ke presentation la kade wahamba khona ke wabese wamnikisa wotshela ke abashushisa abakhulu malana nolwazi kodwa nalo ke ngesikhathi esesha icala leli ke uyasho khona nje ukuthi kula khona ke kwabakhipha ke ama-warrant bese ba-authorize bese bavuma ukuthi yebo akuhanje kuboshwa ke abantu laba ke futhi athi ngesikhathi leso futhi nokheli khumalo naye igama lakhe laqhamuka ngesikhathi kusenzeka konke lokho.
Thank you. This presentation, remember you are the one who introduced us to the concept of presentation that you made to the office of the DPP, not so?
Kumuthi wena uqhamukene ligama leli bathi presentation le wahamba khona ke utshela abashushisi malana nalo kade unakho ke noma mhlawumbe ebabukisa malana nakho konke kade unakho malana necala leli akusinjalo?
No, my lord. It was introduced by Advocate Mnisi. The term presentation, just the question before this, is the one that said there's a presentation. What I agree on is that there was a presentation made to the DPP, so I didn't think that perhaps one should focus on the word presentation. The summary of facts of the docket was presented to the DPP in the form of a memorandum, and that's how we do it, where we summarize all the facts, but in a written document. Who will be the witnesses, what is the evidence, you forward it to the DPP, then you get a formal communication, my lord.
Athi lapho ke umnomzana umnisi oqhamukane ligama elithi presentation athi bona ke uma bemikisa ke udaba lwawo mhlawumbe idocket lapho kubashushisa abakhulu ke lapho mhlawumbe malana nolwazi abanalo ke lapho ke athi babhala ke memorandum usithi mhlawumbe into esingaze siyibukise njengento sithi mhlawumbe incwadi nje noma ipheshana elincane la babhala khona ke malana nodaba lwenkulumo abanazo ke uma bebhalela ikuvisi labashushisa abakhulu ke lokuthi yilokho abanako futhi nabafakazi abanako bazoza bakhulume ngalokho nalokho ya ilokho nje kuphela.
Thank you, Brigadier. You know, when we dealt with this issue on when I did the case on behalf of accused number 3 and we touched base on this presentation, I never had it in mind that you were talking about the memorandum. I thought that you went to the office of the DPP, you went into a boardroom, and the gurus and the big heads at the office of the DPP got in there, and then they said, Mr. Keninda, the rostrum is yours. Can you please tell us what you have in relation to this case, Docket? I thought that is how it happened. But now you're saying it was only in a form of a memorandum.
Athi-ke ummeli kade angazi ukuthi uma ukhuluma ngepresentation yathi ukhuluma ngememorandum ukuthi mhlawumbe wayenza ngohlelo obabiza ukuthi memorandum. Yena kade nomcabango ukuthi uma ukhuluma ngepresentation usuthi wahamba lapho kwaya ku-office labashushisi abakhulu ngesikhathi ufika lapho-ke bese wangena kwigumbi elikhethekile ababiza ukuthi i-boardroom ngelimi lesingisi-ke ngesikhathi athi lapho bese wathi mnumzane ubrigadier-ke ngoba unolwazi oluthize onalo-ke lapho-ke cela ukuthi usitshele-ke malana nakho konke onakho.
No, I think, my lord, then perhaps there may have been a misunderstanding if that's the impression that was given. It was the presentation, a memorandum was drafted, and then it was presented with the original docket to the DPP. And after the advocates, the DPP read, I suppose, then applied their mind, a communication was then communicated to me to say we're indicting the following accused on the following charges, in terms of the normal procedure, my lord.
Thank you.
Athi lapho-ke ucathi mhlawumbe ukungazwana ade khona phakathi kommeli futhi naye-ke ufakazi ngoba athi presentation yakhe yena-ke wayenza ngohlelo abayibiza ukuthi memorandum la kade abhale khona-ke phansi futhi ngesikhathi bekabhale kade kuphelekezwa i-original docket ngesikhathi kade amikisa konke lolu lwazi lakhe kade alibhalile lapho kumahhovisi abashushisi abakhulu-ke bese athi abashushisi kade bekhona lapho-ke bahlala phansi bese bafaka umcabango wabo lapho-ke bese athi asiqhubekeni-ke sithweseni-ke abacala noma asiqhubekeni nokuthwasa kabasolo amacala macala leli abalenziwe.
Thank you. So that we do not get ourselves confused, not ourselves, so that I do not get confused again. Now, you've made mention of the fact that when the matter landed on the shores of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutor, Pretoria, on the 26th of January 2019, yourself, Brigadier Perumal, you saw Advocate Baloyi, the lead prosecutor in this case, Advocate Leonard, and Advocate Mahwata. Now, when you say you saw them, what do you mean? Was that for purposes of presenting something, or you had a roundtable discussion with them?
Bathi ukhulume ukuthi ngelanga la nge-26 ngonyaka kajana ngomnyaka 2019 ngesikhathi idocket le noma kanilisa lapho kumofisa se-DPP lapho kumofisa abashushisi la uthize khona kodwa hamba nomnumzana uBrigadier Perumal ngesikhathi bothi nabona-ke umnumzana Advocate Baloyi futhi umnumzana uLeonard futhi umnumzana uMakhwatha ukuthi mhlawumbe wabona ngeso lenyama noma kazi babone ngalo.
So what I mean, my lord, is that firstly, that was the first time we introduced formally, beside knowing the advocates maybe on various matters, insofar as this matter, that was the first time we were meeting as a team with that prosecutorial team, my lord.
Athi lapho-ke nanoma mhlawumbe sele wahlangana naye-ke umnumzana oku-advocate lecala leli noma mhlawumbe okumholi wabashushisi lecala leli-ke noma wahlangana naye okuleli cala leli ecanti mhlawumbe ngelanga leli bekaqala ukuhlangana naye malana naleli cala leli lokho akusukuthi mhlawumbe akakaze ahlangane naye malana namanye-ke amacala.
And that's why, my lord, I think I did testify as well that in that meeting, the two members, this is now Warrant Officer Makubo and Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi, were also present. I think we found them there, myself and Brigadier Perumal. My recollection, I think we would have found them there.
Uthi ngokukhumbula kwakhe ukuthi mhlambe uLieutenant Colonel Buthelezi right? Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi noRent Officer Makubo bawathura lapho sele bakhona ke yena-ke no Brigadier Perumal ngesikhathi kade beya lapho-ke bevakasha kuma-office wabashushisi.
Now, subsequent, my lord, obviously to the because I do recall that in that meeting, the Brigadier took an exception in terms of the protocol, the discipline that he was of the view was not being followed. But subsequent to that, the two members left, and then myself and Brigadier Perumal remained with the investigation, with the prosecutorial team, and that is where now basically the concept of whether they were intruders, because that was really the first day that I can place ourselves with the new prosecutorial team, was then discussed to say, based on the docket, we think they were intruders, and these are the reasons. And then obviously the way forward was then discussed. So it was, and I'm trying to summarize it. So it was the first encounter between ourselves and the prosecutors in charge of this matter, my lord.
athi xa uthi mhlawumbe kathi uthi isikhathi sokuqala la kade ahlangana khona-ke lethimba labashushisi abakhona-ke kuleli cala leli ngelanga lelo kade behlangane ngalo-ke ngelanga lange-26 ngenyanga kaJanuwari ngomnyaka ka-2019 la iqembu leli abashushisi kade liholwa khona-ke umnumzana okhona-ke namuhla lana phambi kwenkantolo oshushisa icala leli-ke u-advocate Baloyi uyasho khona nje ukuthi kade kukhona-ke abanye amaphoyisa lapho-ke agcina-ke ehamba ngendaba zemhlawumbe kade bengayiphethe kahle-ke kepha uthina-ke ngesikhathi kade bebuka-ke idocument idocket leli-ke kulaba athi khona-ke bafunda khona-ke bese banikeza izathu zabo zokuthi abantu laba abantu abangena ngaphakathi endlini besebenza-ke ubudedengu noma mhlawumbe benza-ke udlame lobo akade bebenza lapho-ke bese babuya futhi banikeza-ke izathu zabo zokuthi kungani kade besho kanjalo lapho kade asele nomnumzana uBrigadier Perumane.
Yes, and this point, my lord, of saying the allegation of whether they were intruders or not intruders was discussed because the two members, my recollection, were in that meeting when the brigadier was there and myself. It was made loud and clear that their view is that there were no intruders. And at that time, as I've said, that was the first time I actually saw at a glance, at a distance, the docket 3751 of 2019, not perusing it, but I saw it because then reference was made to it to say, no, there's a defeating docket, there were no intruders, and obviously there were a clash of protocols as the brigadier felt, he's the senior person, and I don't want to get to that, but that concept, my lord, that allegation was raised, and then after the two members left, then the brigadier, based on the docket, and we presented on what is contained in the docket, and then the way forward of investigating, and then we left, my lord, with that mandate of doing investigation and copying and keeping the communication channels open as and when the investigation was carrying on.
Athi lapho-ke kungaso lesikhathi kade bebonkana bona-ke bezesiphoyisa lapho-ke ngaphambi ukuthi amaphoyisa lawa amabili-ke ahambe khona-ke noma ngaphambi ukuthi bona-ke yena-ke futhi nombrigadier bathathe-ke isinqumo sokuthi abahlale phansi-ke baqhubeke nomhlangano wabo-ke ngesikhathi kade bengaboni ngasonye kade bekhuluma ngokuthi mhlawumbe abantu laba ngabe mhlawumbe igebengu igilamkhuba ezazingenela ngaphakathi kulela khaya leliyana bese zadala kalobu gebengu ezabudala noma kade kusenzekani khona lapho-ke bezathi ngemuva kwalokho-ke ubrigadier Perumane futhi naye ufakazi kulabo thatha khona ke isinqumo sokuthi abahlale phansi-ke bese bapresente malana nodaba abanalo noma malana nolwazi abakade banalo futhi bamikise izathu zabo-ke lapho-ke uyasho futhi khona njalo ukhulumile ngedocket leli ababiza ukuthi 375 of 1 of 2019 uthi nasele walibona nje kancane kepha akaze alibukisise lonkana ngaphakathi.
Thank you, Brigadier. You say in the midst of the discussion, Buthelezi and actually when you arrived, we are now talking about the 26th of January 2019, when yourself and Brigadier Perumane arrived at the offices of the DPP, Buthelezi and Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi and Warrant Officer Makubo were already there.
Ngawuthize ngesikhathi kade lifika ngelanga la nge-26 nevakashela ihhovisi labashushisi abakhulu la ePretoria nathola khona-ke uLieutenant Colonel Buthelezi futhi no-Warrant Officer Makubo sele bakhona lapho-ke.
Yes, that's my recollection, my lord. I do know that previously I said I do not know whether we found them there or they would have arrived after that. But my recollection is we found them there, my lord, and then we found them seated, and then we were allowed also to sit with the prosecutorial team.
Athi yebo khona kunjalo nomcabango wakhe ngicabanga ukuthi mhlambi bona ababathola sele bakhona lapha noma engenazo isiqiniseko ukuthi ibona abafika qala noma Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi futhi no-Warrant Officer Makubo abafika qala noma bafika ngemuva ukuthi bona sele bafikile lapho-ke kepha bahlala phansi bonkana bese bakhuluma futhi neqembu labashushisi.
Now that you're saying your recollection says that you found them there, were they in the company of the prosecutorial team? That's now Advocate Baloyi, Advocate Leonard, Advocate Makwata. Were they busy in a discussion when you arrived?
Njengoba uthizena abathola sele bakhona-ke lapho-ke Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi futhi no-Warrant Officer Makubo ngabe kade behlezi neqembu labashushisi bekhulumisana nalo noma?
My lord, the impression I got is that we just arrived, we were following each other within few seconds, because the impression I got is that they would have arrived just maybe a few minutes before us, and I think it was just at an early discussion. I may be wrong, because like I said, I don't know what time they arrived. All I know is that we found them there, and then after we joined them, we got into the two dockets, the 375 and this matter.
Athi yebo ke khona njalo abathola sele bakhona ke lapho ke kepha akazi ukuthi mhlawumbe abathola sele benesikhathi esingangani bengaphakathi mhlawumbe bafica lapho ke benemizuzu noma mhlawumbe benemizuzwana sele befikile kepha ngesikhathi ade behlezi lapho ke phansi ke lapho kade bekhuluma khona ke bonkana funa iqembu abamaphoyisa noma abaseshi bezesiphoyisa futhi ke neqembu le labashushisi ade behlezi phansi bekhulumisana khona ke lapho ke malana namadocket amabili ke lapho leli singalo phambi kwenkantolo njengamanje futhi nelinye ke docket ka 375.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, just to have a clearer picture, at this point in time, because you're speaking of a docket that you were able to identify at the distance, at the glance, the split in the team that you have been referring to, had it already occurred, or you were still working as a team?
Athi mana docket leli sibili kokhuluma ngalo thina alibonela ke ekudeni kancane ke ngabe mhlambi mana neqembu leleni ngabe besele liqhubeke phakathi ngesikhathi leso noma belingakaqhubhuki phakathi?
No, I think we're still communicating, my lord, but the cracks were already there.
Yeah.
It was clear because as I indicated, my lord, previous evidence is that even when this docket was opened, I only got aware after it was registered that there is such a docket. And as I say, the first time I saw it was, and not actually really perusing it, seeing it at a distance, was at the table of the DPP. And then really the first time where I had to see what is contained in the docket, it's when it was ordered by the previous presiding officer, my lord, that it must be disclosed to the defense, and we're then tasked with Advocate Baloyi and the DPP to actually get it and disclose it to the defense. So that was much later in the years. So the split, the cracks were there, but going down, I think, a couple of months from there, it was a complete separation, my lord.
Athi lapho kade khona ke ama cracks noma kade khona kungaboni ngasonya phakathi kwabo njengeqembu lezesiphoyisa njengeqembu labaseshi bezesiphoyisa ke lapho ke kepha kade benako ukuzwana nyana okuncane ngesikhathi kade behlezi lapho kuma-office wabashushisi abakhulu ke lapho ke futhi yasho khona ukuthi malana nedocket leli kade akhulumile ngale ka 375 beyaqala ukulibona ke lapho ke futhi walibonela ekudeni kade angaliboneli ke eduze futhi akaze alifunde ngaphakathi abone ukuthi ngabe yini ebhaliwe ngaphakathi noma kade kuyini engabhaliwe ngaphakathi kwale docket lelo ke kepha ke inkosi yenkantolo kade ihlezi kulicala leli eyasho khona njalo ukuthi docket labalethele enkantolo futhi balifunde bonkana lenkantolo kulawa khona kwathola khona ke isikhathi sokuthi abuke mayana noqukethwe ngaphakathi kulo docket lelo ke.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, when you went to the office of the DPP on the 26th of January 2019, you then found Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi and Warrant Officer Makubo there. Was this a coincidence, or there was a prior arrangement as a team that on that day you needed to go and see the office of that you needed to go to the office of the Director of Public Prosecution, Pretoria?
Bathi ke ngelanga la nge-26 ngenyanga kaJanuwari ngomnyaka 2019 ngesikhathi benevakasha kuma-office abashushisi abakhulu abala ePretoria ke ngabe kade kuyinto mhlambe engajwayelekile mhlambe kade kuyinto eyenzeka ngendlela engajwayelekile ukuthi uhlangane no-Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi futhi noRani Makhubo khona lapho ke noma mhlambe yinto selena ikhuluma qala emalangeni andlule?
My lord, I do not recall, as I indicated, at that time, Brigadier Perumal was appointed as the lead, and that's why he got hold of me and he tried to get hold of the members and then subsequently say, we need to go and see the DPP so that he can place himself on record and, you know, and make them aware that he is going to be part of the investigation and taking the matter forward. So I do not know whether between him, it may have come up when he spoke to them telephonically. I don't know, my lord. But there was no arrangement made by me for them to be there, my lord.
Athi lapho ke ngeke benalo kulwazi ukuthi mhlawumbe lokho kwenzeka kanjani ke ngesikhathi ukuthi ngesikhathi ethi behamba behlangana futhi nabanye ke abasebenza nabo ke Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi futhi no-Warrant Officer Makhubo ngesikhathi ethi belapho ke kuma-office abashushisi abakhulu la ePretoria ngoba athi isathu sakhe nake lapho ke kade kuwukuthi umnumzana uBrigadier Peruman bekumele ukuthi ahambe ayotshela abashushisi abakhulu bala ePretoria abakade bephethe idocket leli ke ukuthi naye ke omunye wethimba labaseshi becala leli. Mhlawumbe yasho khona ukuthi mhlawumbe ngabe yena ke waxhumana nabo ocingweni nomhlawumbe abashayela ngaphambi ukuthi bona uyena ke ufakazi lo khona phambi kwenkosi enkantolo ahambe ayikhona lapho ke ngoba yithi akanalo lwazi ukuthi konke lokho kwenzeka kanjani kepha bafica bekhona lapho kuma-office wabashushisi.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now you're saying in the course of the discussion, like in the middle of the discussion, the two, Warrant Officer Makubo and Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi, then opted to leave. They decided to leave the meeting when it was still happening. Did I get you clear there?
Athi manje ummeli ngabe kuzwe kahle ukuthizeni wena uthize uwarrant officer Makubo futhi nomunye umnumzana uButhelezi bona kwathatha isinqumo sokuthi abahambe ke umhlangano nosiloko uhlezi nesawuhleni noma ngesikhathi kade niqoqa umhlangano wenu bona ke bathatha isinqumo sokuthi kumele bahambe.
Yes, my lord. As much as I may not recall word for word what was said, but they left while the meeting was on, and they left us there. So we carried on with Brigadier Perumal and the prosecutors. So the two left us there, my lord.
Athi yebo kunjalo amaphoyisa la amabili ke ayihambela lapho ke nanoma ngeke akhumbula amagama ashiwo kulomhlangano ngaphambi ukuthi amaphoyisa amabili ke lawo ahambeke bese nake ufakazi futhi noBrigadier uPerumal basala nethimba labashushisi ngesikhathi be lapho kulomhlangano wabo.
Now, as a participant in the meeting, if you were to tell this court what necessitated their departure, what would you say?
Manje njengomunye kade ukhona ke wethimba lezesiphoyisa noma ithimba labaseshi noma ithimba labeshushisi noma ithimba labaseshi becala vele noma uphenya kwecala lakhe ungatshela inkantolo ukuthi yini eyaphoqa ethizeni egcine behamba.
My lord, my recollection, and I think I may have touched base on it before, was that Brigadier Perumal took an exception about what he viewed as ill discipline in terms of the protocol, because there's command and control structure. He was the senior person, and arrangement should have been made through him. It's a protocol. It's nothing unusual unto that. So the fact that they were found there, and I know also that he was struggling, because up to that stage, he wanted to get the 375 docket in order to advise the National Commissioner of what was contained there, based on the mandate that was given. And I do recall that he faced a challenge in receiving that docket or the copy thereof from the members.
Uyasho khona njalo ngeke abe sakhumbula kahle ukuthi mhlambi yini esathu senzeka lapho ke kepha ke njengokuthi umnumzana uBrigadier Perumal kade kuyena ke omkhulu mayinduna kade ikhona ke phakathi kwabo ke lapho ke noma umsebenzi noma iphoyisa elikhulu phakathi kwabo bonkana lapho ke ngesikhathi kade bekhona ke lapho uyasho ukuthi khona njalo ke nake wabona njengamaphoyisa angayiphethe kahle ngoba khona ke protocol kumele ukuthi bayilandele mhlambi umthetho kumele ukuthi bawulandele njengamaphoyisa futhi lapho basebenza ngokwezikhundla zabo ukuthi iphoyisa elincane kumele lalele ipholisa ekhulu bese iphoyisa elikhulu nje iphoyisa ingathumele lenzeni lapho ke uyasho khona ukuthi uBrigadier Perumal lapho ke bekafisa noma bekafuna ukuletha idocket lela ka 375 ku National Commissioner malana nalo bese athole isinqumo sakhe ukuthi bese athole ke uvo lokuthi kumele benze njani ke malana nedocket lelo ke.
Yes, my lord. So in summary, as much as I may not recall word for word, he was not happy with the conduct, perhaps let me put it that way, of the two members.
Athi njengokunciphile kade engayijabulele neze indlela abezesiphoyisa ababili kade beyiphethe ngayo.
Thank you, Brigadier. Just be rest assured, this is not an indictment on anyone. I just want to know the background, you understand? Thank you. Now, it seems to me that already on this stage, there was another case docket that was being investigated parallel to the one that you are also investigating also.
Athi ke manje kuyena ke ummeli kujankala ukuthi ngalo lelilanga leli kade khona ke enye docket kade nisenza ke ukusesha noma kade niphenya mayelana nayo kuhambisana futhi necala leli noma nedocket leli kade unalo kuwena kusenjalo.
Yes, it is so, my lord, but it is also prudent to mention that the matter that relates to the death of Senzo Meyiwa, it's only the matter that is before court. The matter that was investigated by the two members relates to the docket that was opened somewhere in January in 2019. There is no assertion that the deceased was killed on that date. He was killed on the 26th of October 2016. And that docket relates to defeating charges insofar as I can recall, insofar as the charges. But yes, there was, to answer the advocate, there was a docket that was said to be investigated by the two members parallel to this one, my lord.
athi yebo kepha kukhumbule khona njalo ukuthi mayelana necala leli esingalo phambi kwenkosi yenkantolo yilona kade bephenya lona ke yena ufakazi kepha ke abezesiphoyisa laba ababili ke bona kade bephenya ke icala leli la ngo-2019 la ka-375 lapho khona ke kade bethwesa noma kade bephenya icala lokugwema kusebenza kwendlela yezomthetho.
You know, Brigadier, when I'm telling myself that I'm working with you, then you're leaving me in the lurch. Now, you saying there's no other docket that was investigated in relation to the death of Senzo Meyiwa except the one that you were investigating. Now, the question that immediately comes to my mind is, what was the context or the content within which this other case docket that was investigated by, or that you saw at the office of the DPP on that day? Within what context was it being investigated? Was it not in relation to the death of Senzo Meyiwa as well?
Manje ke kuthi malana idocket leli lesibili ke walibona lapho kumahhovisi abashushisa abakhulu ke DPP ngesikhathi kade uneqembu leli abashushisa abakhona phambi kwenkosi enkantolo futhi nethimba lakho leziphoyisa ke ngabe idocket lelo kade lingekho ngokuthi kuphenywe malana nokushona kwakaSenzo Meyiwa?
No, my lord. So what I'm saying is,
Yes.
the matter, and I'm talking now the facts, factual facts. What you have, the crime scene that relates to the death of Senzo Meyiwa occurred on the 26th of October 2014. There is no other scene other than that scene. So that is the basis of why we are before court, my lord.
Athi lapho cha kusinjalo ke ngoba uSenzo Meyiwa washona ngelanga la nge-26 ngenyanga October ngomnyaka 2014 futhi yona ke isona ke sathu sileso esenza ukuthi sibe lapha kwenkosi enkantolo njengamanje.
Now, relating to this docket 375, my lord, that was opened in January 2019. What I do know, because I've then since had an opportunity to look at it, my lord, it relates to allegations that the witnesses or the people who were inside the house lied when they said they were intruders. So it seems to suggest that there were no intruders and the deceased was killed by one of the people who was inside the house. That's what it seems to suggest. But the charge there is one of defeating and not murder. And that is why I'm saying the murder docket, and I'm speaking to murder in terms of its definition. The person that was killed is Senzo Robert Meyiwa, and the date of the incident is 26 October 2014, not 2019. That is why I'm saying in 2019, a defeating docket was opened for the witnesses who are the people who are inside the house in this matter, my lord.
Athi lapho ke yasikhumbule into yodwa ukuthi idocket leli esingalo noma esikulona njengamanje lapha kwenkosi enkantolo ke idocket lecala lenzeka ngelanga la nge-26 ngenyanga October ngomnyaka 2014 la kwabulawa khona ke uSenzo Robert Meyiwa bese uyabuya futhi ukukhuluma nodaba lo docket lesibili ke ukuthi idocket lesibili lavula lona ke ngenyanga kaJanuary ngomnyaka 2019 la kade bethi khona ke kade besola khona ke mthathe benintsholo khona ke ukuthi ke abantu bonke lapha kade bekhona ngaphakathi kulo muzi kade beqambe amanga bengakhulumile iqiniso futhi kade begwema ukusebenza kwengalo yomthetho mara nokukhuluma iqiniso lapho ngabe kahlahle yini eyenzeka ngelanga leli la nge-14 nge-26 zaka October ngomnyaka 2014.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, as I understand you, is that if I were to call it that way, the reason for the cracks to happen in the investigating team is because some members of the investigating team held the view that at the same scene, on the same date, which is the 26th of October 2014, there were no intruders. The death of Senzo Meyiwa was caused by a person that was in the, or by one of the people that was in the house. Whilst the other view that was held by the other section of the investigating team is that on the same scene, on the same date, there were intruders. Should I understand the whole context of the existence of these two dockets in that fashion?
Athi-ke ummeli manje uthanda ukuthi abuze-ke ekuthizeni mhlawumbe azwisise-ke lama-docket amabili-ke ngendlela-ke ukuthi kade angafani-ke kuwukuthi mhlawumbe ithimba leli noma into eyakhokhela mhlawumbe into eyadala ukuthi kube neqhephu phakathi kwithimba lenu njengabaseshi bamaphoyisa-ke kuwukuthi amanye amaphoyisa kade-ke bona-ke bethi lapho-ke akukho umuntu owangena noma mhlawumbe igebengu ezangena ngaphakathi kulo muzi kulela khaya leliya bese zadubula-ke umufi kepha-ke bathi bona-ke umuntu owadubula-ke umufi ngabe kade kuwomunye wabantu ade bekhona-ke ngaphakathi kula muzi luyana-ke kepha kulunye uhlangothi-ke ithimba leziphoyisa bathi bona-ke nomthimba labaseshi lithi khona-ke lapho-ke my apologies my lord, I couldn't get the whole.
The other section
Yes.
of the investigating
Getting off,
team
yes.
holds or held the view that they were indeed intruders.
Lapho-ke, thank you, counsel. Lapho khona-ke linye ithimba labaseshi becala bathi khona-ke bona-ke basothi kade khona-ke abantu nomhlawumbe igebengu ezazingenela kuloya muzi.
So, my lord, I'll answer it this way. Yes, I agree there were two, there's this docket 375, but I wouldn't attribute the separation to this view or this different understanding of what really happened. Okay.
Athi yebo khona-ke kungaba njalo kepha ngeke ahambisane nenkulumo yakhe ngokugcwele ukuthi wena-ke mhlawumbe kade khona kungaboni mhlawumbe ukubona-ke ngendlela ezimbili phakathi kwalecala.
And I'm saying that with greatest respect, my lord. I think it boils down to discipline, in my view, because even if you differ with your superior, I've not seen a situation when you differ with your superior and then you'll take things and go to, I don't know to what office. There's a protocol, there are measures in place, and the directive that was given to us, me as the leading investigating officer, these members was that I'm the leading investigating officer. The team that is supposed to guide us in this investigation was one team that we ended up with, and that is the one with Advocate Baloyi was part of. At no stage did this procedural team said we must be separated. We were there. All that needed to be done was to present the evidence, and then we get guidance from the NPA based on the evidence, not opinion of what I think, based on the evidence that we've collected, and then they make a decision, and then you take the matter forward if there is evidence to take it forward, my lord.
Athi cha lapho kakusinjalo-ke uma angayibeka ngale ndlela lelandelayo ukuthi kukuthi khona kade khona kungayiphathi kahle-ke phakathi kwethimba lakhe leziphoyisa leli kade besesha icala leli ngoba khona-ke khona-ke umgwaqo nomhlawumbe umthetho kumele ukuthi bawulandele lapho uma ngabe besebenza khona-ke lapho-ke akusukuthi mhlawumbe omncane iphoyisa elincane kwamele liphikisane nephoyisa elikhulu kulona-ke futhi uthina-ke imbangela yalokho kukuthi amaphoyisa la ithimba lakhe kade ngayiphethe kahle ngoba kade kuye-ke kade ahola-ke ithimba lakhe labaseshi becala leli-ke futhi kasho khona ukuthi kuyisizathu leso esenza ukuthi bahambe baye kumahhovisi abashushisi abakhulu-ke futhi ekuthizeni bathole-ke indlela yokusebenza ukuthi bangasebenza kanjani mhlawumbe izeluleko zokuthi bangasebenza kanjani eziqhamuka kwithimba labeshushisi.
And my lord, in addition to that, I've indicated previously right at the inception, rather after we appointed, and after I've made copies to all different members, to say what is it that informed me at that stage, because that part was important to look as to whether they were intruders or no intruders. And I've allowed this exercise to all the members to say, let's go and read the docket separately and come together to address the issue of whether do we think the evidence contained in the docket indicates that there were no intruders or there were intruders. Because after we've answered that answer, my lord, of giving an answer to that question, then the next thing will be the direction of the investigation, whether we are pursuing the people who are inside the house or we are looking for the intruders. Now, I've also testified, my lord, that after reading the docket, and I've given numerous reasons of things that I found, I could find no basis that there were no intruders, but contrary to that, there were intruders, my lord. I found it in terms of objective evidence, and I found it in terms of Mr. Ngashe, the senior, the warrant officer, who says in his statement he blew a whistle and one of his sons were chasing the perpetrators. They chased them to the park and came back. That evidence was there. Now, on what basis can I ignore this? And I'm simply giving the background to say why was this view and why I didn't agree with this view. So my view is that you investigate, my lord, with greatest respect. You present the evidence to the NPA, which was available to us. And if the NPA had said to us, no, there were no intruders indeed, we're going with 375, that would have been the position that I would have had to respect, if I think it's correct, of course.
athi lapho ke ngemuva kokuthi ke atholeke idocket leli wahlala phansi nethimba lakhe ngesikhathi bekahlala phansi nethimba lakhe bese wabanikeza amakhophi ukuthi nabo bahambe bofunda ke bese babuye futhi ade benombuzo ukuthi ngabe lapho kade kwangena igilamkhuba noma kaze kungena igilamkhuba ngesikhathi ade bebuka ke docket leli bese wathi waceda abahambe bofunda ke docket leli ke bese babuye bakhuluma malana nalokhu bona abakuzwisisayo malana ngemuva kokufunda idocket leli kepha uyasho khona njalo uma khuluma kufakazi bakuthi kulapho khona futhi ngesikhathi bahlangana nabashushisa bekhulu ke bethimba labeshushisi abafunda khona ke nedocket leli abanalo njengamanje ke lapho ke ngoba khona ke umnumzana unqashe la wakhuluma khona ukuthi wayena ukhalisa ke impempe lapho ke ngemuva kokuthi akhalisa impempe bese indodana yakhe yagijimisa ke labantu abadebengene ngaphakathi kuleli khaya lelana ngesikhathi kade kusenzeka lobugebengu noma ngesikhathi kade kudaba kusenzeka lo dlame lolu ke lapho kuleli khaya leli kade kwenzeka khona ke isigameko leso ke.
Thank you, Brigadier. I would have imagined when the gentleman and the lady there, Warrant Officer Makubo and Lieutenant Colonel Buthelezi left the office, they had their head bowed down and probably throwing tantrums and saying, I see a hamba tina yiko lento le. On that note, Manot, I'm going to request that we take an adjournment for the day.
Okay, what's the time now?
I don't know how much
21 minutes
is the
past
time.
1, my lord.
Oh,
21.
Minutes past 1.
So when do we come back?
13:21.
13.
Yeah,
21.
13:21.
Okay, thanks. 13:21 then.
we're coming back tomorrow, my lord.
Is it tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
Why so early?
I have, as I've indicated earlier on, my lord, there's a record that I need to go touch based on a subject that we had left hanging in relation to the minutes and the evidence that is, as it relates to what could have happened at rhoqo. Thank you, my lord.
The state, what's your view?
Well, we are in the hands of counsel, my lord. We are not going to object.
Akacala khona njalo umsolo uqala kuthi lapho futhi ngesithathu ukuthi akuthole isikhathi lesi ukuthi ahambe ufunda mayana nofakazi lo kade bekhuluma ngabo ke manje nezinto ezenzeka ngesikhathi kade umsola lapho eClarkhof lejele la khona ke ngoba ufuna ukuthi masibuya kusasa ke siqedele udaba lolo ke bese uhlangothi ezombuso nalo ukuthi alunayo inkinga uma ngaba sesimisa ke namuhla malana nohlelo lokuxoxa Ityala uqala leli.
Me, Mr. Nisa, I thought you had read all the records. I thought you had read all the records of this trial.
Indeed so, my lord.
So what are you going to check? Because you know what you're going to check. You
No,
must have
but-
read it.
But really, the court, Marot, would really be expecting the impossible to have. I'm not a computer in the head. I still need to go and redefine my reading, and that is going to happen frequently. I just need to be sincere with the court, Marot, because I could not have recorded in this little head of mine more than 40,000 pages of information. My head would have busted.
Mr. Ramsipili,
As the court persists, my lord, I'm not going to object.
why am I going to object?
My lord, if it takes a toll on my learned colleague and he needs to verify his information, who am I to buy him from doing that, my lord? So I suggest that it's good and proper that he be afforded an opportunity, my lord, to refamiliarize himself with the information that he wants to give.
Mr. Mamado,
I have no objection, my lord, thank you.
why?
My colleague is requesting an adjournment.
Okay. Let's adjourn until tomorrow. Mr. Nisi says he's going to read the record.
Asiqhamela nomzana manje inkosi enkantolo iqalele yahlekiselela ngalakusasa ngoba ummeli ufuna ukuthi ahamba eyofunda malana nakho konke okushicelelwe phansi la enkantolo.
Okay, tomorrow then. Are you available?
Manje ubuya
Yes, I am.
kusasa.
Yes, I am.
Thank you.